Welcome in. It is the Yahoo edition of the Deeper Dive Live Before Lock, all in one, courtesy of Yahoo. Myself and Matt back with you. This has been the staple here in the NBA, so we're really thrilled that you can spend some time with us ahead of the full Deeper Dive, then Live Before Lock. 11 games for now on the slate. You never know how things play out in this continuing to be COVID world as things get impacted by the second. But Jordan's producing, so if we get any updates between him and the news god, more like the news god first and then him, but that's fine. All hanging here. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. And of course, we love it when you're subscribed, part of the Awesemo family. Matt, it looks like we're intact for now, right? 11 games. I don't know how much jeopardy we're in for this thing dipping, but for the time being, we're pretty much locked in with double-digit games. And I'll have to say, over the past couple of days, this is an accomplishment in its own right.
Yeah, we had the one postponement, but we've known about that in advance. And yeah, I would say outside of maybe like the Hawks, right? You know, the Hawks are kind of flirting on that health protocols threshold at this point. But, you know, the NBA is now forcing teams to sign players if they have guys in protocol. So I think, you know, the NBA is determined to push on. The names on the back of the jerseys may change, but I think we're going to have plenty of basketball moving forward.
Yeah, really. And it's a good point where new guys may be fresh on one team and their opponent, like in Philadelphia, you mentioned Atlanta, not dealing with that nearly to the extent of it. So there could be pathways to it. We do have a couple of names still out, so we'll have to factor that in. And we are technically waiting on a couple of guys as well. So looking at it from an injury standpoint, we'll go through, as we normally do, kind of that position by position breakthrough, Matt. But I'm just looking at from an injury standpoint, knowing who's out, also waiting on any type of news that, you know, we're not going to get on this show, but leading up to the slate locking. What's jumping out at you most?
Yeah, so the biggest names to me right now are the Orlando guys. You've got Cole Anthony questionable and Wendell Carter Jr. questionable. They still have, you know, 10 plus players that are already listed as out. So if Anthony and Carter can't suit up, there's going to be plenty of value to go around. We've seen, you know, Chuma Okeke have some big games recently. We've seen Robin Lopez have some big games recently. So, you know, that's one situation that could open up and provide us with some value. Not that we really need it, but it's there. Kristaps Porzingis for the Mavericks. Again, the Mavericks have been hit hard recently. No Luka Doncic, no Tim Hardaway Jr., no Trey Burke. So they could really use Porzingis if he's able to suit up. He's got a toe injury. And then Malcolm Brogdon for the Pacers, questionable. with an Achilles injury. This has sort of been bothering him for a while. He played their last game, left in the first quarter, didn't return. It wouldn't surprise me if they give him the night off, but technically questionable, still waiting to see what happens there.
Yeah, it's amazing. And thanks to Jordan, you see everything out there as far as guys in, out, where we're waiting, questionable. You ran through the bigger names, so easy to see as well as follow along with what you're breaking down there, Matt. All right, so let's look at the point guard spot. And I feel like now with 11 games, we can get back to a full stars and scrubs type build where it was a little difficult on these shorter games slates, especially with games getting canceled last minute.
Yeah, and there's plenty of value to choose, plenty of studs to consider paying up for. At point guard, I think, you're looking at Steph Curry. He's $45. He should have a few extra shot attempts in him with no Andrew Wiggins and with no Jordan Poole. Hasn't been playing his best basketball of late, but we know about his upside, right? It only takes one game for him to really turn things on and flip the switch. So certainly I'll have some interest in him. And then we got to keep talking about our guy, DeJounte, right? He went off for us on Monday. He gave us almost 70 fantasy points, triple double. Now set the Spurs record for triple doubles in a season. So I think he's certainly in play again as well. And we have him coming in at 12.5% projected ownership. I think that's too low for him given what he's shown us all season.
Yeah, it's a great point, man, to just reinforce what we've been getting out of Murray, and you've been on him from the jump. So definitely, as far as us collectively, I appreciate you sharing some of the praise here, but you definitely had your sights set on Murray before the wave really picked up. So let's look at anybody else. And, as far as ownership is concerned, and it makes sense because you mentioned what's happening in Atlanta, keeping an eye on this game. And look, I wouldn't be shocked if for whatever reason things got really drastic out there for the Hawks because of so many guys being out there. But right, and I understand it because of no Young and because they're decimated by COVID. Wright's getting a lot of look. Is he too chalky on this slate to be a pivot, or are you willing to eat that as a cheaper option?
No, I like DeLone Wright. I think most of the ownership at point guard in this price range is going to go to Kemba. But one thing that I don't know if it's being taken into account is that RJ Barrett is going to be back for the team tonight. Tibbs has already banished Kemba from the rotation once this season.
Yep.
And Kemba has been amazing these last two games from a fantasy perspective. Don't get me wrong. If you believe that he's going to get 35 plus minutes tonight, he absolutely is the top value at the position at $14. But if Barrett comes back and cuts into that workload even slightly, I do think there's a little bit more risk with Kemba than we have seen from him on these past couple of slates. So if you look at, DeLone Wright, I don't have the same concerns with him. They are just as thin as they were yesterday when he played nearly 38 minutes. We have him having a higher boom percentage than Kemba on Yahoo. So I think Wright is the preferred value play, at least in my eyes.
Anybody else at the point? We don't have Anthony Davis. LeBron James is probable, but he's always probable, so that shouldn't come as any surprise. I don't know if this opens up a door for Russell Westbrook at his value there, or anyone else, either top or bottom, you want to really get to at the point, Matt.
I'll have a little bit of Gary Payton the second, aka the Mitten, priced at the minimum there. We have him as the best pure value at the position in our projections right now. I already mentioned the Warriors' absences, no Poole, no Wiggins, no Iguodala. So Peyton's going to have some minutes available to him. He's a pretty good per minute guy. I think he can enter this sort of, value tier as the cheapest of the bunch.
There really isn't any difference as far as cost when you look at Beal all the way through Russell. We're still dealing with the Cunningham injury, so knocks him down. Hero kind of dealt with just the reinsertion of him in the lineup that last game. I'm sure Miami looking to bounce back just as far as how present they can be with more minutes for Hero after that loss to Orlando. So you start to get a little bit cheaper in that $26 range from Hero to Giddey and lower, but as far as that log jam up top, is there anybody that really differentiates themselves from anyone else in that 36 to 30 Beal through Russell range?
Yeah, I think for me, it's Brandon Ingram tonight. You look at the injury situation in New Orleans, they are not going to have Jonas Valanciunas, and they're not going to have Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Those are two pretty high usage guys that we're talking about taking out of the equation. So I think Ingram's going to be asked to score the ball even a little bit more than usual. I like him quite a bit at his price tag. I think he kind of deserves to be the chalk option if you're paying up at the position. You can always go with Donovan Mitchell too. He's a guy that always is going to have upside in games where the Jazz are expected to score a bunch of points. And tonight is one of those nights. They lead the slate, implied for over 120 points right now against the Grizzlies. So I'll have a little bit of Mitchell as well. I think those are the two guys that are getting the most of my attention at the top.
If you're looking to save up on this specific position here, Karis LeVert going up against Houston, the tempo is going to be there, becomes an option. He's not heavily rostered, only a quarter of the field right now to him, which is, a lot compared to everybody except for, really the four guys at the top, but not enough on an 11-game slate, I think, to be a deterrent.
Yeah, I think his interest is obviously going to be impacted by what happens with Brogdon. If Brogdon gets ruled out, LeVert will be sort of the chalk option at shooting guard. He had nearly 50 fantasy points over 37 and a half minutes the last time that Brogdon was out of the lineup. So he would be too cheap in an up-tempo matchup against the Rockets if Brogdon is unavailable. If he's in, then I'm fine with avoiding him. I think if you want to go value, the guy that's really popping for our models or our projections is Sterling Brown. Again, just so many minutes available in Dallas. Brown had a double-double in their last game, picked up over 10 rebounds to go along with, 12 points, I believe. So he can get us, a decent handful of points here at the absolute minimum.
I left it open there for you. Back-to-back 40-point games from Seth Curry, who I always champion in jest, and now at $21 against a Hawks team who might be pulling guys out of the crowd at the second half. Come on, Matt.
I'll pass on Seth. The time to get him was 2 games ago or last game,
Okay, now he's coming down. All right, anybody else you want to hit, man? Duarte, anybody lower there as far as cost that you can take advantage of maybe a blowout?
If you're looking for somebody other than Sterling Brown, I would say possibly Duncan Robinson. Miami, another team with plenty of minutes and shot attempts available, and Robinson has been pretty stellar from behind the arc recently. He's been kind of lighting it up there. 6 threes in his last game, finished with 27 and a half fantasy points. So I think he warrants some attention as well.
All right, let's keep it moving here to the 3. And, again, just depending on where you're building stars, where you're building scrubs, you're pretty much narrowed into something here where you're going to pay up for Chris Middleton at $28. We didn't really talk much about Drew Holiday as far as the point option, knowing that Giannis is out. But if you're saving money for productivity, $28 for Middleton just seemed like a better price as opposed to $38 for Holiday.
Yeah, it's not a bad price tag, but I got to be honest, the guy who I am really finding myself gravitating towards right now is Josh Hart at $23. Hart is just excellent on a per minute basis. He's given us at least 41 fantasy points in back-to-back games. He's played, around 41 minutes in both of those games. Now you take Valanciunas and Alexander Walker out of the picture, and he's got just big upside. He's averaging 1.26 fantasy points per minute with both of those guys off the court this season. That's only over 73 minutes, so not a monster sample size by any stretch, but that's a lot of potential production at a relatively cheap price tag.
All right, Cam Reddish is definitely right there at the top. Diallo is kind of getting similar, just about 10% less ownership here on the Yahoo slate, and all of that available to you if you're part of the family here. The the Awesemo Plus Platinum. And look, if you want to jump in on that and you haven't signed up for Yahoo, then take advantage of these links we have below. $10 free for you to play with across the board on Yahoo. It doesn't even need to be the NBA. And then also, if you're brand new, you haven't signed up yet, use that link. It's going to put you through. You're going to get 1 free month when you sign up. And upon your first contest entry, you're going to get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. So you can use everything that we have available to us that we're referencing. You can have it each and every day available. And look, all we ask right now is that you just hit that thumbs up button, right? We're over 350 here. Josh and Adam are coming your way in about 15 minutes or so for the full deeper dive across all the different platforms. So get you ready for that specifically here on Yahoo. Hit that thumbs up button, please, if you haven't already. All right, man. So again, at the 3, mentioned Reddish, mentioned Diallo. That's where the field is going to. Are you going to be kind of similar to that? Maybe a little underweight with both of these guys. These are really super low options, but Reddish comes off a big one, and now he's again in a situation where he's one of the lone options on the floor, especially with Bogdanovich not 100%.
Yeah, I of the two, Reddish is the guy that I'm a little more wary of, right? He really shot the ball well in his last game. 6 for 10 from 3-point range, 11 for 23 from the field. But he's a scorer, right? He's a scoring dependent player. And those guys on nights where they do not make shots have the potential to bust. So I think Reddish has a little bit more risk than maybe some people are expecting. I'll be underweight on him, but Diallo is somebody that I will certainly be overweight on. He's kind of the opposite of Reddish. He can do a little bit of everything, capable of being a fantasy point per minute type of guy. He can rebound. He had 5 steals in his last game, and he's cheaper. So he doesn't need to do quite as much. I think he's the better play in my eyes.
Is there any interest for a guy like DFS or somebody? And again, maybe it's not it's the right angle, but the wrong guy. If Porzingis doesn't go,
I mean, he would have to play big minutes. You're right. They're already kind of running out of options as it is with, no Kleber but I just don't think DFS is like that good of a player. I know he had a great game in his last game. He got us to 36 fantasy points, but the price is getting up there on him. If you ask me, would I rather have him at 20 or a Franz Wagner at 24 with both teams being, equally shorthanded? I would much rather have Wagner because I just think he's a better player. I think if you want to play the injury game, wait for those Orlando injuries. I think those are more important because Wagner's just a good player.
So before we hit the 4 spot, just curious on Pat Connaughton, again, not looking at specifically what happened last night from a productivity standpoint, but more just from the volume. I mean, he did take 13 shots. Granted, he only hit 3 of them, but no Giannis. That still has an opportunity of scoring, and it's not just going to go on the shoulders of Holiday and Middleton. $15 on the slate doesn't look like it's adjusted for the volume. Maybe it's still consistent from what you got out of him on Wednesday against Houston, but not necessarily reflective of the volume of shots he can take tonight.
Yeah, I think that's a fair play. That's a fair point. Again, I'm going to counter with somebody else in that same price range. I would rather go to your boy, Taylor Horton Tucker.
Yes, I need a big night personally.
Yes,
right.
So he played 31 minutes and change in their last game, 1 for 13 from the field, 0 for 8 from 3-point range. He had over 41 fantasy points the last time he played. So we just need some positive shooting regression from him, right? And that's certainly possible after a 1 for 13, 0 for 8 type of night. So it's sort of a similar thesis to the Connaughton play, but I think the spot's a little bit better. The ownership is going to be a little bit lower, and I just think he's kind of a better player than Connaughton.
I love it. And look, from your lips, right? And if I hit the lotto, I told you, I'll be back with you here on Monday, and THT will forever be known as my guy, my boy, whatever you want. I'm totally cool with that. Did we miss anybody before we hit a pretty rundown 4 spot, especially if Porzingis is out?
No, I think that's good for small forward.
All right, so no Giannis. LeBron is going to play, even though the Q tag keeps hovering to probable, depending on where you're looking at it. Let's start there. $48, clearly a lot on there, but still no Anthony Davis. So that's not going away.
Yeah, and we have to pay up for somebody, right? I keep listing all these great value plays. We really haven't hit a lot of studs. I like Steph. I like DeJounte. We can certainly add LeBron to that category, but as far as like per dollar production goes, it's hard to beat John Collins right now at $29. He had a huge game for the Hawks yesterday, similarly to Cam Reddish, but I just feel like the way Collins did it is a bit more repeatable, especially with no Clint Capella out there. He's going to be more active on the glass. The usage rate's up. The minutes are up. Like, I feel very good about a repeat performance from John Collins. Maybe he doesn't get us, to 50, but certainly in the 40s is very doable.
Your guy or my guy, Harris or Randall?
I'll go Toby. I'll go Tobias on this one just because he's a little bit cheaper.
He is. I knew I had an edge. I knew I had a little slight edge on you there. Otherwise, money talks with you, Matt. I get it.
Julius has been playing all the minutes in the world recently, but he just hasn't been the same player so far this season. He's not passing, like his assist numbers are down. The overall, he's just at 1.08 fantasy points per minute over the past month. That's still better than Tobias's mark by a pretty sizable margin, but Tobias is, $9 cheaper. I don't think either player is like an elite option today by any stretch, but I'd rather go with Tobias.
All right, so let's move on there. And I'm sure there are other people you'd rather go to on top of both, right?
Yeah, I mean, certainly John Collins and LeBron. I'd even put Sabonis in that, tier above them, given the matchup versus the Rockets. So I do think this is a decent position to pay up for. But if you want to go cheaper, again, Chuma Okeke could be in play for the Magic, depending on their injury situation. And Otto Porter Jr. should be locked in for around 30 minutes with the Warriors. And we know he's a good point per minute type of player. So I think both of those guys make some sense. I do feel like, again, this is probably a stronger position to spend up at least a little bit, get into that Tobias, John Collins type range. But there are some values if you need to go there.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at a couple of guys before we round out here with the center spot. And again, thanks for hanging with us as we always do this Yahoo extended version of the Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock. The full version's coming your way in about 5 minutes with Josh and Adam, the Deeper Dive. So hit that thumbs up button, please, if you haven't already. I'm just looking at guys that we have where there's good value for the cost and you're not overwhelmed by much rostership here for Yahoo. Sadiq Bey, $19. He's just under 10%. Workable there with a banged up Miami team, especially in their front court.
Yes. I haven't been blown away by his upside recently, but the shot attempts are there since the injury to Jeremy Grant. 19 shots in his last game, 16 and 17 in his three previous. So he clearly has some upside. He just hasn't really shown it all that often this season. So I think that's a fine play. The guy you mentioned earlier right now that I think would become a very interesting option would be Kristaps, right? Yeah. If Kristaps suits up, we haven't projected right now for less than 1.5% ownership. He would be the Mavs' easy top call offensively. So I'd be curious if we do get official word on his status. His ownership probably creeps up a little bit, but it's scary to play guys coming off of an injury, right? The field typically doesn't like to do it, especially when you have other options like John Collins, like Sabonis, right in that same price range. I think Porzingis is a little overlooked if he ends up suiting up. I think he's an excellent GPP play.
All right, so there are four guys at the 5 spot that really stand out, and 2 are right there at the top, and 2 are at the bottom, and clear pivots from Jokic and Embiid. We've got Boogie, and then right there at the beginning, from rostership is Hernangomez right there at the top. I mean, it's just under 61% of the field.
Free Willy
to him. There you go. So what are you doing with this? I mean, look, we've saved a lot of money, so you shouldn't have to necessarily pivot away. And even Embiid himself is only getting 18% on this 11-game slate, so it's not like people are dominating him. Jokic is under 30% on the slate, so maybe people are spending elsewhere and they're saving it up for Hernangomez based on what we've seen with the 61% ownership there.
Yeah, so to me, Hernangomez is the best value play on the slate. He's one of the better value plays we've seen this season. And that's saying something because we've seen a lot of really strong value plays, especially of late. But with no Valanciunas, I would bet he starts. He can play. We haven't projected for around 28 minutes. If he sees that much playing time, he is going to destroy a $10 price tag. He's averaged 1.34 fantasy points per minute this season. To put that in perspective, the only three players who have been better than that at center are Jokic, Embiid, and JaVale McGee. So he's been better than Rudy Gobert per minute, better than Karl Anthony Towns, better than Christian Wood, DeAndre Ayton, whichever center you pick outside of Jokic, Embiid, or McGee. Hernangomez is better. So plug that guy in for upwards of 30 minutes, and especially against a Magic team that, might not have Wendell Carter, won't have Mo Bamba. Like, to me, it's just lock him in. You can play two centers, utilize the utility spot if you want to get Jokic or Embiid in there alongside him. But Hernangomez is a must for me.
I really like Embiid tonight. And I know it sounds every time we're on, there's a Sixers game, so I have to slide somebody in, but the way in which he destroyed Boston, 2 days rest now. Atlanta is down to no Capella, right? So they're down to guys that from a depth standpoint, they don't have anything at all. We know that the Sixers have no problem just giving it to Embiid when he has a terrible matchup down low, more so than just having to force him outside. I love Embiid tonight. Look, he may not hit 73, 74 like he did against Boston, but I have no problem believing he can get you 60 plus tonight against this god-awful Hawks semblance of whatever they have out there.
Yeah, I love Embiid. The usage, the only problem is he wasn't playing, like he didn't look like himself early in the year. He's back, right? 44% usage rate in the last game, got to 41 points, 10 boards, 5 assists just for good measure. He's a great player. The problem is that he has to compete with Nikola Jokic, who is the best fantasy player in the league right now. Embiid, he's upped his production to 1.55 fantasy points per minute over the past month. Jokic has still got him at 1.71. So Jokic has now played reduced minutes in 2 straight games, but he's just in the most ideal spot possible against the Hornets. 3rd in pace, dead last in defensive efficiency this season. He's going to shred them. So I have Jokic as the clear number 1 option for me at the position, or the number 1 pay up behind Hernangomez. But, you could make some Jokic and Embiid lineups tonight if you wanted. I don't know if I would necessarily want to do that because, again, I'm going to have, basically 100% Hernangomez. But it's a shame that Embiid has to share the center spot with Jokic because they're the 2 best studs. It's just that they happen to play the same position.
Real quick on the way out, any rush to pivot Cat, Gobert, even Wood, who comes off a good game against the Bucks?
I'll have a smidge of Cat. Right now we have him at 13.2% projected ownership. I might be closer to 15 or 20, but again, it's hard to get away from those top 2 guys. They're just so good.
Awesome. Matt, appreciate it, brother. Have a Merry Christmas to you and yours and everybody else out there who celebrates. We'll be back on Monday, so appreciate you hanging. Don't go anywhere as Josh and Adam, the full deeper dive coming your way right now.
said no when you asked me. I don't even mean it the funny way. Nah, I'm good. I'm good.
I have 53 left.
FanDuel?
DraftKings.
Okay. I don't know what I have DraftKings, so I'll let you know when we get to it. Something like that, I'm sure. And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Thursday, December 23rd. I am Josh Engelman. I am joined by Adam Scher. We are brought to you by Yahoo Sports, and we have, I think, an 11-game slate. I can't even keep track of how many games there are any longer. It's just, yeah, it's 11. Good. You never know if one drops off in the middle of the day. I can't keep tabs on it any longer. It's too crazy. We just keep losing it. Every time I look, somebody's in, somebody's out. Your boy's out now. Bradley Beal done for the day. So, and for the near future, I'm guessing, depending on what they vote on for how quickly you're allowed to come back. It's neither here nor there.
Pretty
Hit
sure
that
he's
like
not
button.
going to be in the group that's allowed to come back quickly anyway.
Oh, really? I can't keep tabs on it any longer. I don't remember who's vaccinated or not.
As of the last I heard him speak publicly about it, he wasn't.
Okay. Well, and then he better get comfortable on the sidelines. Hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. We've got 11 games to get through. I'd love to, chop it up for like 5 minutes to start this off, but there are a couple teams that we really need to dig into, and you and I haven't talked yet today for this slate. Normally it's you and I on the strategy show. Thursdays I don't do it, so we're here for the first time. I'm ready to dive in if you are.
Yeah, same.
Here we go. Houston Rockets 9-point dogs in Indy. On the Houston side, oddly enough, they seem to just be dodging most of this. So for Houston, we have no Kevin Porter, injured. Jalen Green back, Eric Gordon in. Everybody else that's normally available for Houston is available. The highest owned guy that we have in this game right now on either FanDuel or DraftKings, for Houston that is Christian Wood at 5%. Are you getting to any Houston?
No, I mean, this team just like functionally does not exist to me right now. This is a slate. I mean, we've seen it on a lot of slates recently where if someone doesn't look like a very, very good play, they're nothing more than an afterthought sort of last piece in. But on a slate this big, I mean, that's been the case on 5 and 6 game slates. Now we have 11 games. It's even more true. I mean, you're going to have a top tier of guys that are excellent plays and getting a lot of ownership. You're going to have a second level of guys that are very good and getting a little bit less ownership. You're going to have a third tier of guys that are still very good plays. I think by the time you start getting down to Houston, you're pretty far down the list. So barring anybody getting ruled out between now and lock, I don't see anything at all here. Jalen Green coming back potentially takes minutes away from guys. It takes usage away. The only guy that I got to yesterday was Armani Brooks at 5K. He was awful. He looks even worse with Green back. I have a really difficult time seeing anything from Houston.
Yeah, the only thing that I would want would be Christian Wood on FanDuel, power forward and center eligibility, 8,200. If you're going to get to a piece of this team, I think Christian Wood is really the only option. And I don't know how good he even looks now that Jalen Green is back, but that would be the only thing I would want. If he only had center eligibility, I would say that I probably wouldn't get to him at all. But at least since he has power forward eligibility, that's something. Best I can do. It's really bad. It's really crazy. That's just a testament to how many teams have so many guys out and how much value exists. It just erases a team from the slate.
Yeah. And I mean, like, honestly, nobody on Houston would look that good to me anyway. I agree with you with Wood on FanDuel. Power forward's always nice. And his salary did drop a little bit on DraftKings. But one theme for sure throughout this show is going to be if you don't get a really good play at center, you're probably, you have a pretty uphill battle to go with all the value and potential high ceiling guys at that position.
So now we need to talk about Indiana, which is a tale of two separate sites right now. And it's a tale of information because we are still waiting on the status of Malcolm Brogdon. I've operated all day with the assumption that he's not playing. Missing a game, coming back, and having to leave early for the exact same injury just makes me feel like he's not going to be in this game, but we don't really know that for sure. If that's the case, we've got some really cheap price tags on the Pacers on FanDuel. Domantas Sabonis is 8,600 power forward center eligible. He's $1,500 more expensive on DraftKings. He's pulling 17% ownership on FanDuel, just 8 on DK. Karis LeVert, shooting guard small forward eligibility on FanDuel, 6,400. He's $1,300 more expensive on DraftKings, 27% owned currently on FanDuel. And then Miles Turner, similar price tags across both sites, but he also gets the power forward eligibility. He's 25% owned on FanDuel. Nobody's pulling any real ownership on DraftKings, which I do find interesting. It's Sabonis, LeVert, and Turner for me on FanDuel. How are you handling Indy right now on DK?
A lot of it depends on Brogdon. I don't think Brogdon's going to play. Last I checked, we have him projected in, so that's reflected in ownership and projections for everybody else. But my assumption is that he's not going to. I mean, he missed 2 games ago. He came back last game, left early with the same Achilles soreness. Now you are facing a Houston team in Indiana. You're 9-point favorites or somewhere in that ballpark. It seems like it would be really weird to screw around with Brogdon having an Achilles injury and like force him out there for this game when he left the last one early. So it's one of the first games of the night. So, it's not a big deal to worry about it, but it does with DraftKings pricing. It does matter because we know this is a really good matchup against Houston. They're one of the fastest teams in the league. They don't play defense. If Brogdon is in, any of Sabonis, Turner, LeVert, Brogdon look fine, but I wouldn't say that any necessarily stand out. If Brogdon is out and you get Karis LeVert at 7,700, he looks really good. He's got a 30+% usage rate without Brogdon on the floor this year. Sabonis looks a lot better at 10-1 if Brogdon is out. Miles Turner, I think one way or the other, is an interesting tournament play, but he looks a little bit better if Brogdon is out. It's really difficult, I think, to go mid-range centers tonight because you have several cheap guys that could realistically go for 35 or 40. And so it kind of puts you in like a narrow path. But this is a Houston team that gets blocked a lot. They turn the ball over. There's plenty of steals to be had. Turner can play 32 to 34 minutes if this game is competitive. He could certainly go for 50 plus here, and it wouldn't really shock anybody. So at low ownership, he's appealing, even though, again, there's a very thin margin for error. But all of these guys just look better if Brogdon is out. It also potentially opens up Brad Wanamaker at 3,200. He played about 25 minutes in the game he started in place of Brogdon. Jeremy Lamb played like 26 minutes in that game. I don't necessarily know that would happen again, but it makes it possible. So Indiana goes from looking like kind of just an average team if Brogdon is in on DraftKings to a team where I would expect to get a lot of exposure to a lot of different guys if Brogdon's out.
Does the LeVert ownership seem a little weird to you at 6%? Because we don't have Brogdon in right now.
Oh, he took him out. I know he was in early.
He's at 0.5%. And if we have LeVert at 27% on FanDuel, my assumption is that we're just going with we're moving forward with Brogdon out. Because
we have Brogdon in projections, so I don't know.
Okay, interesting.
Like, without knowing exactly what goes into our ownership projections, I don't know if we're basically factoring in Karis LeVert being like under projected for Brogdon being out. Okay.
Yeah, because I have LeVert coming out of my sims like 4 times as frequent as our current ownership on DK, and that stood out to me. But and then I looked at Brogdon and saw that we had him at 0.5%, so I just assumed, especially because LeVert's showing up at 27% on FanDuel. That
we have Wanamaker at 0.1%.
Okay,
I think that's a pretty safe bet to say that we're factoring Brogdon in on ownership projections.
Okay, well,
I don't really know what to make of it. I will say this: if we get
LeVert's going to be more on the 6%.
Yeah. Well, if we get news that Brogdon is out and LeVert is still like 6%, I want more.
Yeah. So do I, by like a large factor at that point in time.
I also don't think that will happen, but yeah.
I agree. I don't know. 7,700 people are souring on him. Like his actual rates aren't good if you just look at him, but then you look at his 30% usage rate when Brogdon's off, and that's really like the big swing. I
don't think he's going to be massively popular. There's just too many good plays for anybody 7,700 to be massively popular. And if anybody is, there's a million good pivots away from them. So I don't think it's going to get to a point where it's like, oh, LeVert's 40% owned. I don't want to go there, but I'd be surprised if it held at 6%.
You and me both. How much, what do you want to do with Wanamaker at 3,200, assuming he's out? Because it's an okay play. Is that even the best way to describe it?
It's completely mediocre. I mean, Wanamaker's played 251 minutes this year without Brogdon on the floor. I just deleted the numbers, so I already forgot it. But all right, so he's at 226 minutes without Brogdon or McConnell. That's the one I really wanted. 0.66 DraftKings points per minute. He's likely to play like 24 to 26 minutes here. He looks okay, but he's definitely someone that on a lot of slates, it would be like, oh, I'll use Wanamaker because he's cheap and he lets me get other stuff. On this slate, you can play cheap guys you actually want. So a lot will come down to ownership. Like, for example, if everybody's going to Gravette from Orlando, Wanamaker is a reasonable pivot. If everybody's going to Frank Ntilikina, Wanamaker is a reasonable pivot, but he also is behind both of those guys, even if he starts. Assuming Cole Anthony's out.
720 Red Dog says Brooklyn misses Karis. There's a 0% chance that they would want Karis LeVert.
I mean, that's not entirely true.
Well, like in a vacuum, they would take Karis LeVert.
Right.
Yeah, clearly.
They'd probably rather play Karis LeVert than like Bruce Brown. But
like Karis LeVert would be a terrible fit on a Kyrie, James Harden, Kevin Durant team. Like that's
he'd like play off the bench, and he would give them bench scoring.
Yeah, it would, and I don't think he'd be super happy with that role.
Yeah,
that would be a not good thing for Brooklyn at whatever the hell Karis LeVert makes. Do want to touch on the super chat. Benjamin Shushan, I think I'm saying that correctly. Where can I find that injury page? Nowhere. Sorry. That is an Excel thing that we have on the back end so that you guys can see it on the screen. Apologies on that one.
If you do want injury news, just Google NBA injury report, find the actual one from the NBA. It updates every hour. You can click that.
Yeah, that's the play you're looking for.
It doesn't look all the same, near as pretty as this one, but
right, won't have all the same colors and stuff like that. Karis over Kyrie.
Oh wow.
I assume you mean like in place of a Kyrie that isn't playing. Like, sure, yeah, they would probably rather have Karis LeVert. They should never let him touch the ball, by the way. Just let James Harden and Kevin Durant shoot the entire time. They don't need inefficient shots going away from maybe the best big man shooter ever and whatever you want to call James Harden offensively, but very, very high on the list. All right, let's keep it moving. New Orleans Pelicans, 6-point favorites at Orlando. And I don't even really feel comfortable calling them Orlando at this moment, but I guess that's what we kind of have to do. For the Pelicans, we did get a little bit of news earlier today. Nickeil Alexander-Walker out for COVID protocols. Joe Val out for a non-COVID illness, which is pretty tough to pull off unless he just got his booster, which is also super reasonable. So Brandon Ingram is like 15% owned across both sites. Josh Hart is, call it like 20 across both sites. And then Willie Hernangomez is a crisp 63 at FanDuel and on DraftKings. Let's start with Willie Hernangomez, because I think the most interesting piece of this, and I think it's going to be very obvious to you, is that Jackson Hayes is unowned.
Hernangomez, I think it's like a fascinating spot because on the one hand, he's easily the best value play on the slate. Like if he does anything remotely close to what we're expecting him to do, if he plays even 24 minutes, he should just absolutely obliterate the salary. The reason it's interesting is that, like you said, you have Jackson Hayes completely unowned behind them. Hernangomez has clearly been ahead of Jackson Hayes in the rotation. He's been backing up Valanciunas. Hayes isn't playing at all, but there's kind of a tendency. I always get a little bit concerned when you take somebody who's as bad defensively as Hernangomez and you ask him to play starters minutes, because there's just a tendency for coaches to pretty quickly decide that they don't want to watch that shit for 28 minutes and go to Jackson Hayes. So that's my concern. It's not a huge concern because at 3,800, again, you don't need Hernangomez to play anywhere near full run to be a really good play, but it's mildly concerning just because there's so many good centers today. If you get, and this is going to be a theme throughout the show, getting like 6X or something from a $3,800 guy probably isn't worth the roster spot tonight. So that's kind of the concern, is you need him to be the highest scoring guy out of these value plays, not just give you a good game in a lot of cases. So, basically I think Hernangomez is the best value on the slate, assuming he starts. We have him with a 51% chance of being in the optimal lineup on DraftKings. We also have him with 70% ownership, 84% boom percentage. So really it's just like the epitome of one of these plays that we talk about where it doesn't really matter. What matters is the rest of your lineup. My assumption is on a slate this size, I'm going to be able to find some very good pivots elsewhere that are pretty low owned and allow me to just put Hernangomez into a lot of my lineups. But he is technically probably going to be higher owned than his chances of being in the optimal lineup. So, good play, or probably best play, but pay attention to the rest of your lineup. If you do need a lower owned player that is cheap, Jackson Hayes makes a lot of sense, because if he plays more minutes than people are expecting, it also means Hernangomez is playing less. And on FanDuel, he's a power forward, which is very, very appealing.
Yeah, it's wild. I think his ownership is probably a little bit higher than what we're showing just by default. I'm guessing I'm giving the field credit enough to say, and not that I think that like he's going to be like 12, but I think, if you just penciled him in for 5 across the board, I still want to have those shares. That gap between Willie Hernangomez and Jackson Hayes today is not as big as it should be, or it's bigger than it should be. It's intriguing to me, but clearly if you're making a cash lineup, you're putting Willie Hernangomez in first.
Yeah. And most tournament lineups, I'm getting Hernangomez, but
absolutely. He's clearly my best play coming out of my sims, but it's not even close.
Yeah. Just, as an example, cause I have the DraftKings ownership in front of me. if I happen to have a lineup where it's like DeLon Wright, Cam Reddish, Nikola Jokic, Josh Hart, Diallo, Collins, Graham, like as 7 other pieces, obviously the math probably doesn't work out there, but like maybe there I want to go with Hayes instead of Hernangomez because I have like 6 of the other most popular guys on the slate. But in general, I think I'm going to be able to find low enough owned guys elsewhere that I can play Hernangomez. So yeah, and I agree with you too. I actually specifically, I think, said that in the FanDuel, in my FanDuel tournament piece, I think we had Hayes at 1% ownership with a 10% chance of being the optimal lineup. He doesn't need to be 1%. I mean, if he's 5 or 6%, he's still going to look like a good tournament piece.
Would you play them together?
Not tonight. There's just too much.
I agree.
Yeah, I kind of thought about it earlier because on the one hand, like on DraftKings, you're allocating $6,800 to maybe 48 minutes, but probably at least 40 minutes at center from 2 guys that can produce at a pretty good rate. But I mean, you have Gorgie Jang, you have DeMarcus Cousins, you have Robin Lopez, and that's just at the low end. So basically the way I think about it is like Jackson Hayes is risky, but if I have Hernangomez, I'd rather just like make the same risky play with a Kongwu than Hayes or something, don't, because the absolute best Jackson Hayes game comes from Hernangomez playing like 18 minutes or something.
Yep, for sure. We're on the same page then. I wouldn't either. Does it change at all for you on FanDuel where you get them at like power forward and center? I mean, Hernangomez is 4,600 there, so I think it's the same answer. It's probably even a firmer no.
I think it's not quite as firm a no just because the opportunity cost to power forwards a little bit, but I guess at center it's higher. So yeah, same answer, I guess.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the rest of this Pelicans team then. Ingram, Hart, Devontae Graham now with no Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I think they all look pretty good-ish, but nothing amazing. I'd say Josh Hart, 6,200 on DraftKings is the best piece of those 3.
Yeah, Josh Hart has the highest chance of being in the optimal lineup. Devontae Graham's ownership came up a bit. He was someone I mentioned in the tournament piece earlier. I am interested in Graham because he's typically giving you like 30 to 32 minutes. And with Alexander Walker being out, you certainly could just see guys like Garrett Temple and Tomas Satoransky play more minutes, but you also could suddenly see the 36 minutes from Devontae Graham, soaking up some of that Alexander Walker run. So there's the potential for him to play a little bit more, but I think the ownership accounts for that. So I think there's good plays here. Hart, Graham look pretty good. No issues with Brandon Ingram. Hernangomez clearly the top guy.
All right. Anything else here for the Pels?
Nope.
I mean, I don't even know if we can do anything on this next one. Orlando Magic, or whatever you want to call this team at this moment. We still don't know the status of Cole Anthony or Wendell Carter Jr. If they are in, I'm very interested in Cole Anthony on FanDuel at 7,400, and there's probably not a ton else that's super duper appealing. Any one of the 5 main starters, Anthony, Wagner, Okeke, Harris, Carter, assuming those 5 guys are in, would be all right-ish. If those guys are out, start throwing darts at guys you've never heard of again.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, at least we have the blueprint for how we can expect this to look because we got it yesterday. On DraftKings, if Anthony and Carter are in, I don't have tons of interest elsewhere. I mean, you still, if they were to start Robin Lopez, you still could certainly look there. Okeke at 5,100 would still look reasonable. But assuming those guys are out is where you start to get a lot of value here. Chuma Okeke played 30 minutes yesterday. He dealt with foul trouble in the third quarter. He played 20 minutes in the first half. I think you're likely to get 36 plus minutes from him. You're unlikely to get 6 or 7 steals again, but still makes him look like a pretty reasonable value at his salary. Gravett played about 25 minutes. He's 3,700. He would look fine. Harris looks okay at 4,800. Where I think the priorities would be are Robin Lopez at 4,500. He has played a total now of 102 minutes without Anthony, Suggs, or Hampton. He's played, if we ignore Hampton here, Lopez has played 164 minutes without Anthony or Suggs. He's averaged 1.01 DraftKings points per minute, 23.8% usage rate, 12% rebounding percentage, 20% assist percentage, kind of like a mini triple double threat. And he's still cheap, playing a bunch of minutes. Franz Wagner in tournaments looks interesting if these guys are out. He's expensive enough where he's not going to garner the same level of ownership. Right now, we actually have him at 2%, which is really interesting to me. But without Anthony and Suggs on the floor, Wagner has a 24.1% usage rate, 19% assist percentage. If you take RJ Hampton off as well, just because he can handle the ball, Wagner's usage rate in 113 minutes is 32.2% with a 20% assist percentage. He was relatively disappointing yesterday. And I said to Greg earlier, I was like, oh man, maybe I was wrong and Wagner wasn't as good a play as I thought. And then I looked and he had shot the ball 25 times. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'm fine with rostering this guy at 7,500 or whatever and getting 25 field goal attempts. Yeah. So 2% ownership for a guy that against a bad Pelicans defense that has the potential to, shoot the ball as many times as pretty much anybody on the slate. I like getting there.
Yeah, when I was looking through just box scores, just trying to keep up since I haven't been playing, I saw people like bitching about the Okiki steals. And when I opened it up, I was just like, oh my God, Franz Wagner's gunning.
Yeah,
that's a lot of shots.
I didn't have any like good lineups last night, but for the best one I had going, had Wagner, and he was kind of like flirting with the DraftKings snowflake. And I was just like, damn, this is annoying. Like I actually felt pretty good about that. I guess I was wrong. And then I looked and was just like, nope, wasn't wrong. He just can't shoot.
Anything else for Orlando? It's just the team we're basically waiting for the most of because that is some real news.
Yeah, that about covers it.
Cool. All righty. Schedule for the rest of the day. This is pretty easy. Coming up after this show on this stream, you go nowhere. 6 p.m. NBA Live Before Lock, taking you all the way up till 7. And then we've got NFL Live Before Lock at 7:15 for, honestly, I have no idea who plays in the NFL tonight, but there's a game and we're going to have a show for it. That much I can tell you. NBA player rankings are free today. NFL single game projections are also free. And you guys hitting the like button is free. 1,275 people in here, 172 likes. Let's run that number up a little bit. I think 300 is in our sights. So go ahead and hit that thumbs up. It's the giving season, everybody. Give us those likes. Atlanta at Philly. Hawks are 10.5-point favorites and have to play today with half of their legitimate parts of their team missing. No, Trae Young, Kevin Huerter, Clint Capella, DeAndre Hunter, Danilo Gallinari, Lou Will, or TLC. That's crazy to me. So we'll start on the Atlanta side where Cam Reddish went nuts yesterday. Price is either the same or lower. 43% owned on FanDuel, 33% owned on DraftKings. DeLon Wright, same story as I just said for Cam Reddish. 43% owned on FanDuel, about 36 on DraftKings. John Collins pulling some ownership, looking good on both sides, but the price is a little bit more reasonable for Collins. 11% owned on FanDuel, 19 on DraftKings. Not much to say for those three guys. They're just like really good plays today.
Yeah, pretty much. Like this was one of the most popular teams yesterday, and for the most part, they got cheaper. Cam Reddish at 4,600. He is actually more expensive by $900 than yesterday, but he also led the team with like 42 minutes. And one thing that I like about Reddish, and I mentioned it yesterday, when you have a team that is really shorthanded like Atlanta, and they're basically just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what lineups end up doing well, someone like Reddish that can defend multiple positions, it's really easy for him to find his way onto the floor because basically no matter what other players Atlanta decides they want out there, they can just say like, okay, and Reddish go. So I don't think it was very surprising that he led the team in minutes. He's averaged 0.9 DraftKings points per minute without Young on the floor this year. So still looks like a good value. Collins' salary didn't move. He's at 1.12 DraftKings points per minute without Young on the floor this year. He probably would have had a bigger game yesterday too. Judging by Atlanta beat writers, the game was just horribly officiated and Collins was just like not getting any calls on the offensive end. I know I saw they posted one clip like towards the end of the game of Collins in transition just getting thrown to the ground under the basket with no call. So maybe would have done even better, but still had a big game, likely to do so again tonight. He's only 7,300. And then DeLon Wright looked like he was going to somehow manage to fail last night. Still didn't do great, but he was okay. Played 38 minutes. It's just difficult to find guys that can play that many minutes at 4,200. He's at 0.76 DraftKings points per minute without Young this year. He's going to get a lot of ownership, but his salary also definitely should not have gone down.
Yeah, those three guys look great. Assuming Reddish, Wright are joining Willie Hernangomez as immediate locks in cash game lineups.
I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Collins
seems like a terrible night for cash. Yeah. Seems like a terrible night for cash. There's so many just like, gotta just jam this guy in. Gotta just jam this guy in. What do we do with the rest of Atlanta? Because I don't really find them to be all that appealing. I think the most interesting piece would be someone like Gorgie Jang, 3,500 on FanDuel, 3,300 on DraftKings, but there's just so many centers.
Yeah, the Jang piece is tough for me because, so on the one hand, he's only projected for 8% ownership. That's nice because you could get a 24, 25-minute game from him and he can go for, he can double-double. The concern I have is one, if Gorgie Jang gets you like 24 DraftKings points at center, yeah, that's great value. It opens up stuff for you elsewhere. It probably is going to make it hard for you to win because there's going to be a couple of centers that go for, 50 to 75 a piece. So that's one issue. The other is he played 23 minutes last night, which is cool. He I'm not convinced he was supposed to. Okongwu had a lot of fouls in the first half. He picked up 2 fouls in the first 3 minutes, went to the bench, actually came back in before Jang, picked up his 3rd foul after a minute, and then Jang came in and played almost the entire second quarter. So that is a little concerning to me, that, maybe Okongwu was going to play more. They had said he was on a minutes limit, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Who did we just lose?
Nah, we didn't lose anybody. Carter and Cole Anthony are both in.
Cool. That makes the slate a little bit better, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Nobody wants to play the ass end of Orlando today.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, it still makes those guys we talked about like decent tournament options, but nowhere near as good as they were. So the Jang piece, though, I mean, at 8%, you probably should be willing to gamble on it, but I'm not super confident in it. And then similarly, Okongwu has power forward eligibility at 3,100 on draft. You can't really feel good about his minutes here, but he did play 19 minutes. He did have foul trouble. The big question is basically, if he hadn't had foul trouble in the first half, does he get all those minutes in the second half? Or would they have just, curtailed his playing time? So I do have some interest in Okongwu as a power forward, just, low owned, and maybe things go my way.
I don't think you know it, but you glitched out for like 2 seconds, black screen and all. And I had a panic attack because I didn't think that I was ready for 48 more minutes of me on this show on this particular day.
Yeah, no, that would be brutal.
Now, come on, man. I already did it once today. It's true story. I did the process show alone, this exact show by myself, carrying that thing. I hope so, because if I'm not carrying it, no one's going to watch it. Yeah, I think the Okongwu piece on DraftKings is really interesting. I mean, how frequently is Willie Hernangomez beating 1 or 2 of Jang or Okongwu? Like, that's an interesting discussion point, depending on how many minutes you think are going to happen. But
more than... So I think Jang beats Billy Hernangomez more than the ownership discrepancy. Yep. But I also think Hernangomez just smashes often enough that I don't really care. I'd probably just find other spots.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Do you think Lance Stevenson starts?
He shouldn't, but he might.
I mean,
they should be rewarding their own guys with those starting spots. I'd be surprised.
Yeah, but is Skylar Mays or Sharif Cooper one of their own guys?
Cooper is.
Yeah.
I don't know. Skylar Mays has been like around the block. Cooper is a rookie, right?
I have no idea.
Draft
I know Mays
pick
has been there a couple of years.
I think Sharif Cooper's a rookie from this year. 2nd round pick, 2021. Yeah. So he's an actual draft pick of theirs. It's just a bad look to start Lance in the spot to me.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason I asked is like, that seems like the one spot in their lineup that they don't have an answer, and assuming they're still going to try and limit Bogdanovich, so it's not going to be him. Like Stevenson played 23 minutes last night.
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, he's certainly going to be out there, but I'd be surprised if they started him.
I also don't know what role he serves as a starter anyway.
Okay. RJ Hampton has cleared health and safety protocols, but is still out due to conditioning.
Okay.
Do we have anything else we want to touch on for Atlanta?
No. Priorities are Collins, Wright, Reddish. Risky, but potentially high rewards in guys like Jang, Okongwu, and Stevenson.
Just because I want to clear this up, just from the way that you said it, you weren't reading them in an order, were you?
No.
Collins, Wright, Reddish. Okay.
No, I was just looking down it's the order they're listed on Popcorn Machine from yesterday's game.
Okay, just making sure. On the Philly side, God, this team too, man. What do we got here? I'm scrolling all over the place. There's just some of these teams, like Orlando on the depth chart page that I'm looking at, it's just got like 25 names on it. You really got to scroll and stretch your screen out to figure it out. For Philly, Tyrese Maxey is back. No Danny Green, Shake Milton, Niang, or Drummond. We also get Korkmaz and Jaden Springer back. Embiid is 17% owned on FanDuel, 6 on DraftKings. That's 6 on DraftKings is the highest owned player on Philly. Tobias Harris is 20% owned on FanDuel, where he's 7,100, just slightly lower than the $9,200 price tag he's got on DK. Are you playing anything from Philly?
I think Embiid is the high-end version of like what we were just talking about with Jang versus Hernangomez. Right now we have Embiid projected at 6% ownership. We have Jokic at 30% at the top. I think that Embiid beats Jokic more than like 20% of the time. I also think that Jokic is just so damn good that I'll get to more Jokic than Embiid. Like, he's going to succeed so often. But Embiid certainly, if you have a lineup where you have a bunch of chalkier pieces, you're paying up at center, and you don't want to mix in a chalky Jokic, then Embiid for sure has the ceiling to beat Jokic any given game. But other than that, no.
All right, I'm with you on that one. Nick Murray said, since Carter, this is a super chat, so thank you, Nick, for that super chat. Since Carter is in, does that change anything for Willie Hernangomez? No.
I mean, it makes it more likely that he's going to get abused and taken off the floor, but not from like a DFS standpoint in terms of actionable things you can do.
Yeah, it should not change your Willie Hernangomez projection at all. Or at least it wouldn't for me.
Yeah, and if you didn't already realize that there was some risk level here that they get real tired real quick of watching Hernangomez play defense, now you know.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So for Philly, I don't really have anything else. Clearly Embiid at 10-7 on FanDuel is a reasonable price tag. I think the Tobias Harris ownership is a little high. He has been absolutely dreadful for the past 30 days. 0.87 FanDuel points per minute for Tobias Harris in the last 30 days. That is actively terrible for him. So I don't project him like that. I assume that he gets back to his normal self, but something to keep an eye on.
Josh Gillum said Lopez still going to start. He may or may not. He started a couple of games ago with Bamba out, and then most recently they went Okiki and Carter.
Yeah, it feels more like a Carter spot, but it really depends on.
I have no idea.
There's no telling. Yep. There's no telling.
And also because it just came up, but to quickly answer the Jokic question that we'll see 100 times, Mike Malone hockey line benched his starters like halfway through the third. After the game, he said he didn't think they deserved to play anymore. Then he let the bench run the rest of the game. So that's what happened to Jokic last night.
You don't think that Jokic is going to be a sub now moving forward, playing 16 minutes a game?
Yeah. What if that happens again?
Yeah. Only the best offensive player in basketball right now. Pistons, 11.5 point dogs in Miami. If you ever want to know how bad Detroit is, well, here's your chance. I mean, both teams are missing their two best guys, and Detroit's still a double-digit dog. So for the Pistons, we've got no Cade Cunningham, no Jeremy Grant, no Kelly Olynyk. Frank Jackson is questionable. Killian Hayes is in. Hamidou Diallo is in. Corey Joseph is in. We've got Sadiq Bey pulling a ton of ownership on FanDuel right now, 18%, where he's 5,400. He's $1,300 more expensive on DraftKings. Hamidou Diallo seems like the guy that's stepping into the biggest role here and the guy that's getting the most ownership. Call it 25-ish% across FanDuel and DraftKings. Oh, no, what?
Brogdon and Sabonis out.
All right. Let's put this Pistons Miami game to bed, and we'll just try to give it 5 seconds on Indy after this. So I think Diallo seems like the best option, but I don't trust that at all. And then I don't really want all that much of the rest of Detroit. So talk to me about Diallo.
I think he looks like the best play from Detroit on DraftKings for sure. At 4,400, he has guard and forward eligibility. He's around a 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy without Cunningham or Grant on the floor. He played 34 minutes last game. All of that said, this dude's on a team with a 97 implied total, and he's getting 26% ownership on a slate with 100 good plays. So Diallo's a very good point per dollar play. Would probably get there in cash. Feel free to mix him in the tournament lineups where you have some other contrarian pieces. My assumption right now, based on the fact that in the boom bust tool, he has an 11% chance of being in the optimal lineup at 26% ownership. My assumption, he's one of the guys that I just don't quite get to the field on.
Yeah, that
But that doesn't make him a bad player.
There's no reason it can't be 4 or 5 other guys from the Pistons that just fall into those minutes.
Yeah, or he could just play poorly. That would not be the first time he's done that.
Anthony Harris, Wagner, Okiki, Carter.
Yep.
RotoWire puts out the blurb of Hassani Gravett set to move to the bench. Get that one printed and framed, brother. Glad we pushed that one out as fast as possible. Whew. All right. I don't really have much else to talk about here for the Pistons. It continues to be a Sadiq Bey day on FanDuel, but otherwise it's keep your eye on Diallo.
Yep, pretty much.
Miami's pretty easy. It's the same thing that we've had pretty much every day for a while now. No Butler, Tucker, Bam, Morris, or Caleb Martin. Zylan Cheatham is available. We've got Kyle Lowry, 10 to 15% owned. What's up?
I couldn't even figure out who you had said, and then I realized.
Yeah. Tyler Hero, 10 to 15% owned across both sites. Do you have a single priority coming from Miami?
Priority, definitely not. Taking some shots at $6,800 Hero seems fine, but far from a priority. The center position is probably the most appealing on the team with Dedmon and Yurtseven splitting minutes, but so many good centers today.
I got nothing else to
and
talk
one of
about
them
for
just got
Miami.
even better. So
Yeah, so let's touch on Indiana quick. Let's work our way back because this is real. No Sabonis, no Malcolm Brogdon. Obviously, we were moving forward with the assumption that Malcolm Brogdon is in or was out. Sabonis, that's a wild card. So we are playing. Miles Turner just became really, really interesting today. And who else did?
So this season, Turner's played 161 minutes without those two. He's at 1.28 DraftKings points per minute. LeVert, looks even better. He's only played 64 minutes without those two this season. He's got a 36% usage rate. Going back to last season to see how big the sample size gets, but 281 minutes since last season without either of those two on the floor. 29% usage rate, 1.21 DraftKings points per minute for LeVert. Turner's at 1.21 DraftKings points per minute as well. So they both look great. Brissett's been ahead of Martin in the rotation recently. I don't know, who starts, but O'Shea Brissett's not a bad fantasy producer. He's at 0.98 DraftKings points per minute without those guys. So he looks like a potentially good value. Jeremy Lamb has the potential to play even more minutes now. This is someone that played like 25 minutes the last game Brogdon was out, but he's risky because he's been in and out of the rotation this year, but he's another one of these guys that he can fill multiple positions. And so when teams get really shorthanded, I do kind of like guys like that, especially when they can produce at a high level.
Yeah, I'm trying to look through it now. Those Turner numbers are just popping like absolute craziness. That's just
21.8% usage rate, 14.9% rebounding percentage, 5.5 blocks per 100 possessions in 395 minutes without Sabonis or Brogdon since last year.
That is nuts. Truly, truly nuts. Does anybody else benefit here?
I mentioned
is Justin Holiday about to play like 32 minutes now?
Justin Holiday could certainly play a lot. I don't know how much we care. But he's 0.8 DraftKings points per minute without those guys. So it's not like he's awful. Brad Wanamaker probably plays a little bit more. Like I was assuming he was going to play 24 to 26. You could certainly see him get a few more minutes as well. Yeah. Doesn't have to, but could.
I think it's probably a lot more minutes to like Torrey Craig, which ends up being totally meaningless. But
yeah, unless Torrey Craig does the thing where Torrey Craig scores like 100 fantasy points per minute.
Like, man, ranking the centers today would be a real journey.
Yeah.
I think that Miles Turner might have just become like maybe the second best center play today. And
he's probably top 4.
Turner, Hernangomez, Jokic would be the top 3 to me. I can't get there.
I think Cousins is in the 4. I think that he's probably 4th. Like, I think I would say Hernangomez, Jokic, Turner, Cousins.
Yeah, I don't. I have a hard time sifting through that. What I just quickly changed Miles Turner to makes me think that it's Turner before. I feel a lot more comfortable, I think, going to Miles Turner than Willie Hernangomez tonight, as odd as that sounds. But
I don't different know. Price points, but
sure.
You should feel more comfortable with Turner than
on FanDuel. Turner's just exceptional now that he's got power forward eligibility too. He's just became one of the best plays of the day. We're done with Miami, so we're going on to
minutes limits for Anthony and Carter for whatever that's worth.
Probably not a ton. Matters on FanDuel since Anthony's price is still low. I don't think it really matters for anything else. Wizards were 1-point favorites before the show started. I assume the Knicks are probably a favorite by a point or two.
I forgot Duarte. Yeah, Duarte looks good.
He probably gets up to like 32-ish minutes now.
Probably somewhere in there. And on DraftKings, he has guard and forward eligibility.
Yeah, it's pretty big. News we got before this show started: Bradley Beal out for today. COVID protocols. I think that we're going to have to unleash the Spencer Dinwiddie here. 5,300 on DraftKings, projected for 15% ownership. 4,600 on FanDuel for Spencer Dinwiddie today. Can we talk through that price for a second? Do you just have to smash Spencer Dinwiddie?
There's so many good plays though. But yeah, it certainly makes him look better. I mean, there's more usage available for him. Maybe he'll actually play some minutes here. I've kind of given up on that pipe dream, but I mean, he looks really good.
Yeah, he's been, big time usage bump with Beal off the floor this season. I think he's like around 1.1 FanDuel points per minute in that spot. And now he's not at 6K where it looks like, okay, yeah, like we got to play a little bit of Dinwiddie. 4,600. I mean, it's tough to fail at that price tag for him. What else do we do with Washington with no Beal?
So I think Dinwiddie looks better. Kuzma should get more usage. I still don't think that there's a ton that ends up opening up here. Like, Dinwiddie at 5,300 on DraftKings looks good as well. But like, I don't expect Beal to really have an impact on guys like Harrell or Gafford. They're sort of in that like Dwayne Dedman, Yurt 7 spot where I always like getting to these guys, but it's really difficult tonight. Maybe a little bit easier on FanDuel where Harrell is power forward eligible. He was projected to be way under owned earlier in the day. But yeah, I mean, like somebody like Howell Neto on some slates, he'd be worth taking shots at 3,800. I just don't. Yeah. I have a really hard time unless you're talking about a player that like averages well over a fantasy point per minute and you're like, well, they could play, a bunch more minutes. That's interesting to me. But on a slate like this, if it's someone where you're saying, oh, well, they could play more and they're like a 0.8 to 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy, I just have a really hard time getting there.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page here.
Dinwiddie, for what it's worth, 3 games without Beal this season is at 1.59 DraftKings points per minute with a 33.7% usage rate and a 42.5% assist percentage. Overall, without Beal on the floor, Dinwiddie is at 1.15 DraftKings points per minute with a 26% usage rate, 37% assist percentage. Kuzma has a 22.6% usage rate. So yeah, I am going to walk back kind of my hesitancy on you saying the slam in Dinwiddie because so I had it flipped in my head. When Dinwiddie is out, Beal is still just like the same player. But yeah, when Beal's out, Dinwiddie has taken massive steps forward this year.
Isaiah Stewart, Killian Hayes, and Saban Lee all in the health and safety protocols.
Good.
I mean, there's going to be a shit ton to like on the Pistons right now. We cannot touch on that. We need to keep moving. If we can work our way back to the Pistons, we will.
Yeah, play Trey Lyles at power forward.
And Corey Joseph, maybe. Yeah. I mean, they just lost 2 points.
Corey Joseph
point guard and the backup point guard.
You would think Corey Joseph plays a lot. Diablo's going to have the ball in his hands.
I think Corey Joseph's going to play like 34 minutes tonight.
It seems pretty likely.
Their 3 main ball handlers are out. 4 if you want to say Jeremy Grant's out.
Yeah, agreed.
We'll touch on it if we can. Holy shit. It's rare that you see the point guard.
And we're still waiting on Frank Jackson, right?
Yeah, and Frank Jackson's still questionable. So
Frank Jackson, by the way, looks good if he plays.
Yes, he does. For the Knicks, great. Let me read through all of the crap that the Knicks are going through. No Nerlens Noel, Quickly, Rose, McBride, or Knox. Quentin Grimes in, Obi Toppin in, RJ Barrett in, which was news. Alec Burks is getting a little bit of love at 5,600 on FanDuel. Don't play him on DraftKings at 7,800 today. $5,900 Kemba was getting a little bit of love on DraftKings. I think we're slowly but surely getting away from that, given the amount of value that's opening up now. Are we playing any Knicks today?
I'm really interested to see what the starting lineup looks like, and that's going to kind of answer the question here.
I think it's Taj at center.
I think it's Robinson at center.
I don't think they're going to do it.
They did it last game. I mean, Robinson started the second half last game.
Oh, interesting.
But either way, like I think you're getting 48 minutes at center from those two. Assuming that Toppin and Barrett play, which as far as I know has not been confirmed, it's likely, I guess likely, I don't know. If that happens, then it basically, the way I see it, gives you one extra body in the rotation because I think Toppin just replaces Noel functionally from last game. I think that the 13 minutes that Selden and Dotson played basically go to Barrett plus whatever Barrett plays. So at the very least, it makes guys like Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier riskier because these are guys that, not too long ago, you couldn't count on their playing time at all. And then, they've played a lot of minutes recently because they've been forced to. But at the very least, Barrett can cut into that. If you get a starting lineup of like Burks, Fournier, Barrett, Randall, Robinson, then I don't have any confidence at all in Walker. So basically, I'm not very confident in the Knicks here. The price tags will come up. You're getting bodies back. If RJ Barrett were to be ruled out, then it changes. I think they look very good again. If Kemba Walker starts, I still think he's kind of interesting in tournaments at 5,900. But yeah, nowhere near as appealing right now as they have been recently.
Ryan Henderson says, Adam, the extra Mitch Rob minutes were Randall foul trouble. That's not true. They split 48 minutes between Robinson and Noel. Had nothing to do with any of that. Okay. Man, this Pistons thing is wild. Okay, so we just did 3. This is supposed to be an ad read. Oh, but technically speaking, I just hit my mark. I was trying to get to this particular spot at 5:30, and it worked. So
Robinson
far,
never
so
even
good.
subbed in for Randall for what it's worth.
No, I mean they literally split the 48 minutes at center. There's no way around that one. Yahoo read. Whew, got it. Guys, it's wild, man. It's the wild west of the NBA right now. We've got a deal for you. If you are interested in playing at Yahoo, you can get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Click the link in the description of this video to redeem it. If you need immediate access, email support@awesemo.com. We can get you set up. You can also get a $100 first match deposit bonus with Yahoo, part of their 12 days of winning, when you use the promo code XMAS100, the letter X, MAS 100, up to $100 for your first match deposit bonus. You could use that bonus to enter tonight's 100K Thursday night football baller, with 25K going to first. We've got DFS tools and projections on our website designed specifically for Yahoo to give you your best chance at winning big. Make sure you're checking it out and click that link in the description right now. Good Lord. All right, here we go. Milwaukee, Dallas. I think this one's pretty easy. So for Milwaukee.
What?
No?
The Dallas side isn't.
No, but the Milwaukee side is.
Oh, okay.
Look, anytime you get one half of the game correct, like we could just be like, okay, cool, moving on. No, Giannis.
Is Grayson Allen even alive? Do you know the answer to that question for sure?
Fair point. Fair point. Giannis out, Portis out, DiVincenzo out, Brook Lopez out, Mamu out. Grayson Allen not on the injury report, not as if that matters at all for this particular discussion. On FanDuel, no one is higher than 9% ownership. On DraftKings, Cousins is at 27%. That number is fixing to come down now for sure. I don't know how far it's coming down, but maybe around 20 or something. Cousins is clearly the best option on DK, although Drew Holiday's price dropped to 8,300. That is very appealing to me as well. What are you doing with Milwaukee?
Yeah, so the Middleton and Holiday pieces are pretty interesting to me in tournaments because, like you said, Holiday's price dropped on DraftKings. He's still, I think fairly priced. He was probably a little bit overpriced yesterday at 9,400, but you're getting like 10% or lower on both of them. We know that they can produce at a high rate. Giannis is still out. So like both of them in tournaments, if you can get there. Cousins at 4,700, the only guy here really pulling ownership. I'm optimistic about his playing time just because we got him playing, 27 minutes on the second half of the back-to-back 2 games ago, played 28 minutes last night. Doesn't seem like they're really concerned about giving him substantial minutes. And without Giannis on the floor, he's at about 1.2 DraftKings points per minute this year. The concern still comes from, just the opportunity cost of the position. But I think he still looks very, very good at 4,700.
Yeah, it's crazy that he looks very good. And he's like maybe the 4th best center. And we could probably, by the time we finish the show, it might be like 7th or 8th.
Yeah, there's plenty of other guys that you can argue for too.
Yeah. So just keep an eye on the ownership, because that, to me, the ownership on DeMarcus Cousins is the major distinguishing factor, because he doesn't have to be good. They don't have to play him. Like, it's a weird spot. But yeah, I got him in for the minutes. Now that Mamu is out, he's a little bit firmer in his spot.
Yeah, but I mean, like, to be fair, they still have the backups. They still have Ojale. They still have Thanasis. But I feel as confident as I'm probably ever going to feel in DeMarcus Cousins minutes, which still isn't saying a lot. To get back to the other two quickly, just to get the numbers for them, 11 games since the start of last season without Giannis and with Middleton and Drew both active. 1.29 DraftKings points per minute for Holiday, 1.26 for Middleton.
Yeah, don't forget we now have Trey Lyles, power forward center, 3,600. So add that to the list of ridiculous shit at center today.
Yep.
We're good on Milwaukee.
Maybe, I mean, if Jordan Morris starts at 5K, he looks pretty good. I have no idea what's going on there.
For Dallas, no. Luka Doncic, Reggie Bullock, Willie Cauley-Stein, Tim Hardaway Jr., Maxi Kleber, Trey Burke, Josh Green, Ja'Cory McLaughlin, Omer Yori. They signed Carlick Jones. I don't know who that is. And then Kristaps Porzingis is questionable. So that's a big piece here. We've got Jalen Brunson is an exceptional play on FanDuel today at 7,400. He's 28% owned. He should be. Brunson is 8,500 on DraftKings, pulling a little bit of ownership. He should. Frank Ntilikina is the second highest owned guy on DraftKings at 3,100. Do with that what you will. What are you trying to do with Dallas? How big is the Porzingis news? Are you firing up anybody else? I don't know what else to say.
I wish this game would be canceled.
Yep.
Ntilikina at 3,100 looks like, at least in terms of points per dollar, one of the best values on the slate.
Sorry, they signed 2 other guys other than Carlick Jones. They also got Charlie Brown and Brandon Knight has been exhumed from wherever he's been.
Ntilikina started and played 32 minutes last game. Now Trey Burke is also out. Ntilikina is at like 0.8 fantasy points per minute without Luka on the floor. So, he's fine. I hate the idea of rostering Frank Ntilikina ever, but especially on a slate with these many good plays. We only have him at 12% ownership right now, though. So he's fine. Don't keep your expectations in check, but he should play a lot of minutes and he's cheap. Jalen Brunson looks really good. He's been about 1.08 DraftKings points per minute without Luka, whether or not Porzingis is on the floor. He's likely to play a ton of minutes here. Recently, prior to the COVID wave, when Doncic was out, the issue with Brunson was that he was typically only getting like 32 or 33 minutes. Now he's likely to get 38 to 40, makes him look pretty good, even though he is getting expensive at 8,500. I do think that like between him and Drew Holiday, that's one really good spot to pay attention to ownership. I think they are really close to like the same play. I might even prefer Holiday by a little bit. So that's one where like right now, not that Brunson's getting a ton of ownership, but he is projected for like almost double the ownership of Holiday, which is kind of interesting.
Man, what a team here.
Marquise Chris played a bunch in the second half yesterday. If you wanted the answer to the question, like what random guy on Dallas ends up breaking the slate.
Yeah, 3,500 power forward on DK for today. Keep your eyes peeled on the Porzingis news. What? Kevin Huerter could be available to play, waiting on his test results. Sure. Nick Murray with the super chat. Detroit just put a lot of players on Health Pro. Yes, they did. Thank you for the super chat. On to Charlotte Hornets. 3-point dogs in Denver. 230 total here. This one's kind of easy. Finally, Charlotte is 3 or 4 weeks into their ridiculous run of everybody being out. So it's just Cody Martin out for the Hornets. And the highest owned guy in this game is LaMelo Ball at 11%. No one else is above 10. There are no priorities for Charlotte. If you get one or two guys in random lineups, I think it's reasonable if it's Bridges or Ball or Rozier, but there are no priorities for Charlotte today.
Yeah, I agree with that. The one thing I do want to point out is that I think LaMelo is going a bit under-owned right now. He played 33 minutes last game, and that by itself is sort of was good to see because we know that he had been out for a while, and then it took him a while to get back because of conditioning. But he also had some foul issues in that game. So I think there's a pretty good chance that you get like 36 plus minutes from him at 9,900. The matchup sucks, but this game does have a really high total, and LaMelo is really good.
Yeah. I wish I had more to say here, but we are going to have tons more to talk about. And like Charlotte just cannot be the place where we're wasting words. Yep. So on to Denver. 11,300 on FanDuel, 12,200 on DraftKings. Nikola Jokic is projected for about 30% ownership. And that's more than warranted. I got him at 1.84 FanDuel points per minute in this spot because playing Charlotte is a dream spot for Jokic. I don't care at all about what happened yesterday. He is the highest raw points projected guy on the slate. I think I've got him beating Embiid by 9 right now. Lock and load him. I don't have anything else to say.
Yeah, the only argument I have against, or that I think, the only reasonable argument I think anybody could make against Jokic is that you can potentially get like 100 points at center by spending. You could get like 100 combined points
6K.
at center, spending less money than Jokic's salary costs. So that is the argument against him. It's also why he's only projected for 30% ownership. But yeah, just looks great. About as good a spot as you can get to. Only a 2-point spread. Absolutely fantastic play. Just comes down to what you're able to do with the rest of the centers and the rest of your lineup.
What are you doing with the rest of Denver? Because this is a great spot.
It is a good spot, and you're unlikely to get much ownership here outside of Jokic. Everybody else is 8% or less. None of them stand out, but 6,400 for Barton with guard forward eligibility, certainly not the worst place to, throw a contrarian play into your lineup. Same goes for Gordon at 5,800, but, pretty difficult to prioritize any of these guys, even in a really good matchup, given all of the other good plays on the slate.
Oh man, we might have to walk through the centers at some point in time just to say like, this is how good it is. Good luck. I don't know if we're going to have the time to do that. Let's go to Oklahoma City at Phoenix. Oklahoma City, 15-point dogs in Phoenix today. Highest owned guy on Oklahoma City on either site is 5.9% owned Jeremiah Robinson Earl. I asked you the question yesterday on the strategy show, like, are we sleeping on Oklahoma City yesterday? Turns out the answer was yes. Shea smashed Denver and they beat Denver. I don't know if I can ask you that question today.
And even that, I mean, most of the teams sucked.
Oh yeah. Well, and I didn't even mean that we were actually sleeping on them. That was just a talking point. It just so happened that Shea went out and dropped a triple double, which was nice to see. But oh boy, is this a tough one to try to promote.
Right. Like all you can really say, like if you pull up the boom bust tool, the highest right now, at least the highest optimal percentage on DraftKings is Robinson Earl at 5.5%. None of these guys are projected for more than 5.5% or 6% ownership. So it's kind of like, yeah, if you're playing 150 lineups, maybe you have the lineup where the relatively inexpensive Gilgeous-Alexander sneaks in and you hope he goes for 60. But just certainly not building around anything here.
No, not at all. Yeah, like you're never freaking out if you see SGA's name, Dort's name, just because these guys are going to play starters minutes, allegedly. You know, if this game stays competitive, they're the guys you want, but the chances of this are very, very minimal in this particular spot. Phoenix is so good. They're so disciplined. And Oklahoma City has like 4.5 real NBA players.
Yeah, this is just one of those spots where like on a normal 11 game slate where pricing is close to correct, and I don't mean that as a knock on the sites, obviously, just so much news. Yeah. You would be looking at the OKC guy saying, all right, well, nobody's going to play a 5% owned Gilgeous-Alexander, so, you know, I'll take some shots there. Here, it's like, all right, cool, Gilgeous-Alexander's 2%, but I can also just find guys that are like 5% and like multiples more likely to succeed than Gilgeous-Alexander.
Correct. Rodney Magruder has entered the health and safety protocols. I'll be honest with you, man. I don't even remember what team he's on. Is it Detroit. The Pistons?
It kind of matters, yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember. I thought I was right, but
minutes limit.
It could have been anybody there for Magruder. All right, Phoenix.
I wonder how many bodies they have.
They're running low.
I would love for that game to just go away.
All right, let's see here. All right, F5, refresh here. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They have 9 if Frank Jackson is in and Cheikh Diallo is with the team. They have 7 if both of those things go the other direction.
Isaiah Livers.
I don't know if Jamarco Pickett is with the team. He's on the G League. I don't know.
He's not on the injury report.
Okay.
Livers is questionable.
Yeah. I counted him as in as well.
Yeah.
They're getting dangerously close to that game getting axed, though. Phoenix. Devin Booker 16% owned on FanDuel. Chris Paul is 12. Nobody else is in double digits anywhere. What do you want to do with Phoenix?
Kind of the same thing as Oklahoma City, except they're on the good side, but it's still just, you know, DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul, Devin Booker. They're in your lineup. Cool. They'll probably have good games. They'll be low owned, but they're low owned because there's a bunch of guys that just have easier paths to success. Someone said, I wonder how late they can cancel a game. Guessing you didn't play NBA in March 2020 because the answer is like 9 p.m.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they could cancel it when one of the teams are out warming up.
Yeah.
And the other team doesn't come out. I don't know. I don't have anything else to say here for Phoenix. I got a sneaky suspicion that Bridges, Paul, Ayton, and Booker are going to play about 26 minutes here because they're up by 60. At which point, I think it's it might just be 60-0. So I don't know if it's even a good thing. All right, we're just going to push forward. 15 minutes to go here. If you haven't done it yet, hit the like button. Almost 2,200 people in here, 330 likes. It needs to be 500 by the time we turn this over to Live Before Lock. There's no way around that. We've got 3 more to go. We'll try to work our way back to the Pistons if we can. Minnesota at Utah. This one's actually sort of easy to talk about. It's certainly from the Utah side. No Patrick Beverley, Anthony Edwards, Jared Vanderbilt, Torian Prince, or Josh Okogie for the Wolves. Naz Reid, Q-tag, Jalen Noel, Q-tag. Assuming those guys are in for right now, D'Angelo Russell is the only guy in double digits of ownership at 15%. But the best play in this game is getting slept on, and I don't even know how much it matters any longer because they keep getting more and more centers. But why are people not playing Karl Anthony Towns when Anthony Edwards is out?
Yeah, I have no idea. Greg mentioned it this morning, and I think I agree. You know, I mentioned Embiid as a pivot away from Jokic. You can kind of do that same thing, but save $1,400 with Karl Anthony Towns at 5%. Not that Towns is, you know, likely to outscore Jokic, but realistically, neither is Embiid. Towns is averaging over 1.5 per minute, fantasy 1.5 per minute without Anthony Edwards. It's not a good matchup, but he's also not someone that, you know, you and I have talked about this before, that I'm particularly concerned about Rudy Gobert, like stopping him. He's not just trying to back down and dunk on Rudy Gobert or anything. He should have plenty of success here. So very, very difficult to get to him. I mean, there's so many good center plays, and it's not like he's cheap, but not getting much ownership and really, really good.
Yeah, I would have obviously been getting a ton. Like Miles Turner has just lapped him today. Obviously, different player or different price tiers, but
RJ Barrett's out.
There you go.
Which probably means topping out is coming next.
Well, I mean, maybe you don't want to play RJ Barrett 16 minutes, but you don't mind playing Obi Toppin 16 minutes.
Yeah, that's possible.
I can see that going either direction. Certainly keep an eye on it. But yeah, if you can find shots to play Karl Anthony Towns tonight, I highly recommend it because
Obi Toppin's available.
There you go. Yeah, they don't mind playing him 16 minutes.
Good news for Kemba and Fournier's minutes, though. Should
Quentin
be
Grimes
a pretty
available
similar
as well.
rotation to last game.
What else do you want to do for Minnesota? Just a little bit of Russell?
Yeah, a little bit of Russell, a little bit of, maybe a little bit of McDaniels at 4,300 with small forward eligibility. Still waiting on news here too, though, because you have Jalen Noel questionable, you have Reed questionable. Potentially opens up minutes for a bunch of guys that I probably don't care about anyway.
Nope. That's the best way to say it. This one will be simple. You ready? Utah Jazz. Donovan Mitchell's 8,400 on FanDuel and pulling a little bit of ownership. No one else is getting any real ownership here. I don't mind getting to Mitchell. Gobert is going to be the toughest of sells on a day like today. What are you doing with Utah other than probably nothing?
Same thing I just said about Phoenix. Mitchell, Gobert, Conley, Bogdanovich, Clarkson, Gay, they're all fine. I don't think I'll get to a lot. I'm perfectly fine with that because I think there's better plays, but they're all projected for virtually no ownership and they all are capable of doing well. So kind of the same thing we say about Utah every slate, but even more amplified on a slate like this.
It's crazy. Like Rudy Gobert is not even the best center option in his own game. And he's like, you can't even play the other one really with any sort of volume. All right. Memphis, 5.5 point dogs in Golden State. Alrighty. For Memphis, it's no Brandon Clark, no Zaire Williams, Aldama, Culver now in the health and safety protocols, Sam Merrill out, Tyus Jones questionable, John Conchar questionable. So we've got John Morant back now. The highest owned guy for Memphis is 6.4% on FanDuel. That's Dylan Brooks. There is no ownership coming into Memphis, nor should there be.
My God, I want to take shots on John Morant, but I just don't think I really can on this slate.
Yeah.
I had a good amount of him last time out. He was like 1% owned at 8,900 or something, and I had like 10%. But like on the one hand, he played 28 minutes. If he just got back to 34 minutes here, he would look insanely good at 8,600. But kind of like I said earlier, anybody that you're looking at and saying like, yeah, but what if they play more? You're kind of tells you that they're not a priority tonight.
That can't be right.
That's not right.
That can't be right, right?
No.
We're looking at the same thing. The Knicks starting lineup.
Robinson turning into Noel, who's not playing.
Yeah. That's super wrong. That'll be interesting. I'll wait for the correction on that one. We both did the exact same thing at the exact same time. That's fun. Let's go to Golden State, where they are also missing a few. Oh boy, whoopsie daisy. Go ahead and pull that one, but neither here nor there. Let's go to Golden State. No Jordan Poole, no Andrew Wiggins, no Klay Thompson, no Andre Iguodala, no Damian Lee, no James Wiseman. The bucket is here, as is Quindary Witherspoon. For Golden State, we've got Curry, 9,700 on FanDuel. Very appealing price tag, 25% owned. Not as appealing as at 11.9 on DraftKings. Otto Porter is the other guy getting love. He's about 10 to 15% owned, depending on the site. Let's start with Curry. Is that your cup of tea at 11.9?
I mean, I hate the price, but there's so much value. He's not that difficult to get to. I think he is one of the guys that makes sense if you're going with like the, Cousins, Hernangomez build or something like that. Like you need to make up raw points somewhere. If you're going that route, you're hoping Jokic doesn't go for 75, 80. There's only so many guys on the slate that can possibly go for 75, 80. Curry is one of them. So he kind of makes sense, in those builds because he's not getting much ownership. But there's also some point guards that are a couple $1,000s less expensive, like Ball, like DeJounte Murray, who we haven't talked about yet, that I also like in those same sort of builds. So low ownership Curry is never bad, but still also extremely expensive.
Yeah, that's 11.9 is a really tough sell for him.
You're you're just hoping that he has a game where he scores 50 real points. Jokic scores like 65 fantasy points. Curry wins by 10. You get the best values on the slate because you paid down at center, and there you go. Doesn't happen often, but he's also 7% on.
Peyton, Bucket. Are there any value plays here that you want to try to get to?
Not that I really care about. I mean, Otto Porter looks fine. I think the ownership's about where it should be.
Guys, 75 likes to 500, 2,300 people in here. It's the holiday season. The gift of giving is in our veins. At least it should be. Gabriel, I don't know how to say your last name. Mayfrin. We'll go either way. DeJounte Murray and Draymond Green, or Curry and Collins on FanDuel. That's Curry and
Collins.
I don't think it's close either.
I think they're both good, but Curry and Collins.
Yep. All right. Final game for us right now. We can try to touch on as much as we can if we have an extra minute or two. San Antonio Spurs, Los Angeles Lakers. Spurs side is, I believe, really easy unless something bad has happened since earlier today. No Zach Collins. Also, still no Thad Young based on Pop's choices. Right again, Josh. 18% owned DeJounte Murray on FanDuel, 12% owned on DraftKings. He's the only guy in double digits. It looks okay. That's the best I can really do for San Antonio in the spot.
Yeah, I think Murray's, I kind of just mentioned when we talked about Steph, but like he fits really nicely into the pay down at center, pay up elsewhere builds. He's one of the highest upside guys on the slate. It's a good matchup and all of that. We have him going a little bit under owned right now on DraftKings by a couple percentage points. So he looks pretty good. A lot of slates, I'd really like Jakob Poeltl here, but I think Jakob Poeltl has a good game. I think it's very difficult to get to him.
That's all I got on this one. Like, you want to fall into a Derek White game or a Keldon Johnson game, go for it. These guys are appropriately priced right now, and that's tough. Pace up, I guess, is like the only real benefit here. This should be a track meet of a game.
Like Jakob Poeltl can go for like 40 points here, and you just don't even remember it at the end of the night.
He's the 11th highest scoring center.
Right.
Lakers, only guy in double digits in ownership today is 12% owned LeBron James at 11.3. I've got a little bit more interest in $9,800 Russ on FanDuel at 3% ownership, but not a lot here for the Lakers. Just to touch on their status, no Avery Bradley, no Anthony Davis, no Trevor Ariza, no Malik Monk, no Kendrick Nunn, no Austin Reeves, no Kent Bazemore. Dwight Howard is available. LeBron James also probable.
Yeah, LeBron's pretty much all that I see here. Similar to the Curry and Murray basically builds, where if you're not going to Jokic and you're trying to get really high upside players, LeBron's only projected for 12% ownership with guard and forward eligibility on DraftKings. 5 games now without Davis and with Westbrook. 1.6 DraftKings points per minute, 32.6% usage and assist percentages. He looks very good. I still don't think he's the same level as Jokic, but there's also not as much opportunity cost. So at relatively low ownership, I think he looks pretty good. I would guess that given and I haven't built lineups yet, but just my assumption, given the positional eligibilities, that in my non-Jokic lineups, LeBron is the guy I get to the most.
I think that makes sense. He's just so easy to roster him with that designation.
Like there's not as much opportunity cost at point guard as there is at center, but there's still quite a bit. You have DeLon Wright, you have whatever the hell is going to happen in Detroit. You have more guys than I can think to name. So it's not like there's none, so going to guys like LaMelo and Curry and DeJounte Murray, you still kind of have that same issue that you do with Jokic, at least to some extent. With LeBron, you can roster him at small forward or any of the forward spots. So, the forward spot or small forward. So it just makes it easier and lowers the cost.
THT, Mello, one of the other scrubs. Is there anything else here?
No.
Is there anything that we could roll back on for Detroit that's useful information right now?
They're going to play a lot of minutes. Let me see. We have a couple minutes.
They've got like 8 bodies.
Yeah. I hate spots like this probably more than anything else in NBA DFS, where you're getting just absolute garbage players, but also they're going to have to play a ton of minutes. So like you just get to play garbage players at high ownership, and there's nothing you can really do about it.
I think very clearly Corey Joseph, 3,800 on FanDuel, 3,400 on DraftKings has become a much better play. I think he has to play something in the neighborhood of 32 minutes or more.
Yeah. So without Cade Cunningham, Jeremy Grant, Killian Hayes, or Saban Lee on the floor this season, Corey Joseph is averaging 0.71 DraftKings points per minute in 214 minutes. Frank Jackson's at 0.79. Amadou Diallo is at 0.96. Sadiq Bey is at 1.01. Trey Lyles is at 0.86. It's just a bunch of shitty players that are going to play a lot.
Yeah. Who's the best option on Detroit right now on DraftKings?
Corey Joseph. Pelicans lineup is what we expected. Graham, Hart, Ingram, Jones, Hernangomez.
I don't think your answer is correct.
Oh, sorry, Diallo.
Yeah.
I forgot about Diallo.
I was a little nervous about him before. I'm not any longer.
I forgot Diallo. Yeah, shooting guard, small forward too. Yeah, shooting guard, small forward instead of point guard.
I think I have a better answer. If he had a better position, which is stupid. How many minutes is Josh Jackson about to play?
I kind of thought about that too, but he's only power forward eligible. He is 3,500. He has averaged 0.97 DraftKings points per minute. He looks like a good value as well. Oh boy,
Towns COVID.
Yeah, Reed available, Noel available, Towns not available. So I think we just got another new center.
Yep. Yeah, just in case you guys didn't have enough centers, Naz Reed.
Thank God he's power forward eligible.
And best of luck to Towns in this one because he's already had it once, and obviously everybody in his family basically got it at some point in time, and that didn't go well. So,
it's just got to be like a gut punch getting that result.
It's got to be terrifying.
Yeah,
but Naz Reid, 4,200 power forward center. Is Naz Reid a better option than DeMarcus Cousins?
Because he's a power forward, yes.
Yeah.
Nathan Knight, 3K, basically Jackson Hayes type play.
I'm tapping out. That's it. Live Before Lock crew is next. Good luck to those guys. What a journey they're going to be on for the next hour. Adam, good luck to you as well. I'm going to eat some pork ribs that I've been smoking. So that's the best
Sounds
thing.
Sounds a lot more fun than whatever this is going to be.
Yeah, I don't want any part of this. Best of luck, everybody. No games tomorrow. Enjoy your holiday. Adam and I are back on Christmas morning.
Keep an eye on potential Memphis news because they do have Jarrett Culver in health and safety.
Yeah, you never know where that might just trickle down. Good luck, everybody.
It is.
Beautiful. Deep breath, everybody. Deep breath, everybody. Welcome to the NBA Live Before Lock show, presented by Yahoo Fantasy. I'm Eric Lindquist, hanging out with my buddy Matt LaMarca here on a Friday afternoon out here on the West Coast, 6 p.m. Eastern time out there, where you're at, I believe. Matt, how you doing, my guy?
Isn't it? It is Thursday, right?
That's what I meant. Honestly, I just got done trying to update 50 million things right before we came on. Son of a biscuit. What is going on, Matt LaMarca? What's going on? What do we do?
I don't know. Some players are out and then they're in. Some players are in and now they're out. Some players are out and we don't know, right? Kevin Huerter, they're basically saying, I don't know, maybe he'll play. So the injury report has just become sheer wildness. You would expect nothing else on an 11-game slate before a Christmas break. So it should be fun.
Yeah, we're going to be trying to unwrap some presents here a little bit early.
Oh, nice.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just trying my best here. And again, bode with us. We're going to do the absolute best we can to go through all this injury information. There's going to be some weird starting lineups. There's going to be some interesting stuff, but at least we've established that today is Thursday. That's exciting. That's good to know. I believe we're on the same page now. Let's get into it. Matt LaMarca. It's an 11-game slate with a million moving parts. But what piece of news are you looking for the absolute most here in the next 57 minutes?
Kristaps. If Kristaps is in, I think he's really interesting as a pivot. I talked about this a little bit on the Yahoo show earlier, but Kristaps is averaging 1.56 fantasy points per minute with Doncic and Hardaway off the court. And I would imagine that he's going to be relatively unowned if he does suit up. So I think that's kind of the biggest news. If he's out, then it's just going to be Jalen Brunson and like a lot of, I don't know, Sterling Brown, I guess. Like where Dallas is getting pretty thin. So I think Doncic for me is the most interesting thing that I'm following.
Okay. You're not Doncic, Porzingis.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So we'll be able to wait on that one. We've got a ton of time here leading up to that here. I'm getting over and looking at this game. That game doesn't start until like 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. So we've got forever. That's an hour and a half from now. In this early window, though, man, I don't know until we get this starting lineup from Detroit. I don't even know how I build lineups. Like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. I'm assuming Diallo is for sure going to be a big part of that. I got to assume, again, we have a million centers. We just got this Minnesota news. I'm going to keep updating that because I think that that's going to matter. Luka Garza on other slates at 3K at center would be an important play. Sadiq Bey, I think, is just too expensive in the context of this slate, which is very Starsy and Scrubsy. I think, if you're paying $6,700 for somebody, they better go for 50. But Corey Joseph, 3,400 at guard, going position by position like we always do. Frank Jackson, we're waiting to see the availability of that. Even Josh Jackson becomes somebody that we've got to be talking about here. He's a body. He's healthy, I think, and, should play a ton of minutes. I think a lot of I thinks here with Detroit, but give me your favorite here at guard from them without having seen that starting lineup yet.
Well, if Hamidou counts as a guard, he does have shooting guard eligibility. It's clearly him. He is a really good per minute producer, as we've talked about in the past. He's not the type of guy who needs to score the ball to have a impact from a fantasy perspective. Last game he had 6 boards, he had 5 steals. The steals definitely a little bit on the fluky side, but he can do things, right? So if you put him on the court for 30 plus minutes, I fully expect him to return value at 4,400.
Look at this. Jameis voice. Oh, yeah. Just turned on and Eric is on again. Christmas come early. That's what I'm talking about, baby.
Wow.
Yeah. Ooh. Last Christmas, I gave you my heart. The very next day, you gave it. Oh, we don't have time for that shit. Sorry. Ooh, I like the duet. This year, to save me from tears, Jordan Klein's gonna get some lights so I can see his face last.
Okay, you didn't even give me a chance to hit the second special there.
Ooh, I'm sorry. I had to turn it into Jordan Klein. How are you doing over there, Jordan? I can barely. Okay, there he is. He's hiding now.
It's so good. Anyway, we're continuing on. Again, I'm just biding time until we get the Detroit lineup because I don't know what else we're supposed to do here. That game starts at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. I'm hoping that it comes in after lock. That would be amazing because you should just be front loading a bunch of those. Yeah, just waste more time. Why not, Gillespie? Yes, I can waste as much time as I want because, again, it's only 11 games with a crazy amount of moving parts. And let's jump to the Minnesota side because I was kind of semi-stalling to let everything update and run for me. I think I did an effective job. Maybe less saying would be great, but D'Angelo Russell is jumping up to maybe, and this is freaky against Utah, but at 8K, hard to get away from firing him up. Of course, just kind of looking at the guard position before we jump over to forward and center. And we'll for sure have a lot of Naz Reid takes and Jaden McDaniels takes. But D'Angelo Russell, how does he look on your board now in the absence of Karl Anthony Towns?
He's more interesting to me on FanDuel than on DraftKings, but I really worry that this game is going to turn into a blowout. You know, like Minnesota has nobody right now. You know, they've got Russell, they've got Malik Beasley, I guess, is going to be like their number 2 guy. I think this one could get ugly against the Jazz, who are still one of the best teams in the league. So I might be leaning on this situation a little bit less than some of the other sort of COVID spots we've got.
Yeah, I've withdrawn all of my lineups on FanDuel over the course of the last 8 minutes because I could not imagine playing on our sponsor Yahoo today, which, the 12 days of winning, if you guys aren't playing in that, I believe I'm in 11th right now, which would be really fun to win a nice 5K bonus over on our sponsor Yahoo to kind of round that one out. But need a big performance out of tonight to try to hang leading into Christmas Day before, all hell breaks loose. Well, it already has broken loose. Let's not kid ourselves, but looking at playing there in DK. So I'll let you cover a lot more of the FanDuel information here at this point, because I can't do all of them here now with the Minnesota news. But D'Angelo Russell, I think at 8K on DK is still pretty fascinating to me simply because that usage has to be going somewhere away from Karl Anthony Towns, and it has to be going primarily to D'Angelo Russell. If that game stays remotely competitive, like within 15, which, is a big if here, it's got to be because of D'Angelo Russell. So I think I'm going to be getting to a little bit of him, probably giving a small boost to the likes of Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell on the other side. And I know Donovan Mitchell, from looking at FanDuel earlier, I believe 8,400 for him. Very intriguing number to be looking at pairing alongside one D'Angelo Russell. So I think that that's a fine spot. All right, let's get to the top of the guard board. I'm going to refresh, take a look at some of the more popular plays that we have here on DraftKings and start there and move our way across. We have the Detroit news. We're waiting on all of that. Atlanta. So apparently Kevin Huerter is getting tested right now to find out if he's good to go because testing is testing, but it doesn't change the thing or how the thing works. I don't know. All I know is that Cam Reddish is at the top of the board. How do you feel with him coming off of his 50-plus burger yesterday?
Yeah, I think Reddish is the least appealing of the Atlanta backcourt for me, right? He's a scorer, pretty much only going to give you fantasy points via scoring. And he had a good shooting night the other night, 6 for 10 from 3-point range, 11 for 23 from the field. I do expect, the minutes and the usage to be there, but I just think his performance is a little bit more volatile. I'd rather save the $400 and go to Delon Wright, who isn't coming off nearly the same kind of performance as Reddish in their last game, but I feel like he can just do a little bit more. So historically, Wright has been awesome in games where he plays at least 30 minutes. I think that this last performance was basically on the low end of what we can expect from him. So given, the slight ownership discount I'm getting with Wright, I would rather go in that direction.
Okay. As I said, everybody, you got to kind of bear with me because there's pieces of news and names that are coming through that you don't always notice. Sharif Cooper got ruled out, which sounds absurd, but he played 12 minutes yesterday. So that's actually a piece of news that matters from Atlanta. So Sharif Cooper, a backup point guard. I think that shores down perfect timing. Delon Wright ends up becoming just even more of a secure guy, I think, for all of us here. I'm just waiting for that starting lineup, and we'll be able to make some assumptions there. The one guy I think we could probably agree on, 5,100 Bogdanovic, completely out of play. Everybody else really up in the air, but depending on that. Kevin Huerter, we just got news, officially out. All right, Beautiful. We're full go. Good news. Yeah. Glad we got that. That makes it a lot easier to be able to kind of look at what we're dealing with there. Delon Wright, fire him up at will. Cam Reddish, fire him up at will. Anything to add in the aftermath of that news coming through, like literally at perfect timing.
As far as backcourt guys, I would expect, they're going to get almost all the minutes with, the corpse of Lance Stevenson also factoring into the equation.
Boy.
He played 22.6 minutes in their last game, but I cannot advise playing Lance Stevenson, who's been out of the league for, half a decade at this point. So.
If I have a lineup with Lance Stevenson, truly, just I'll quit. I'll just leave. I'll leave. Like, if he were to somehow end up optimal, I'm so sorry. It would take the well, I don't want to say the apocalypse because we're kind of in, middle of things. But here we go. Cam Reddish, Delon Wright, fire them up. That's your guard position. Congratulations. Let's go to the rest of the guys here. I think that looking at there's just so many situations. It's madness. Brandon Ingram on the top end. So we're talking about raw points. We need to have raw points in our lineups. And with no Jonas Valanciunas out there, I don't know how this doesn't become the absolute Brandon Ingram show today for New Orleans. It's a cake puff matchup. He's sub 9K over on DK. I think he's 9,600 over there. He's sub 9K over on FanDuel, I believe is what I was looking at earlier there, but 9,600. I know it just looks wonky there, but I'm projecting him for around 47, 48 fantasy points. From a raw points perspective, I love getting to him. How about you?
Yeah, I have a decent handful of him. I would say that his production has not been as impressive as I would have thought it would have been with Valanciunas and Alexander Walker off the court this season. Just 1.03 FanDuel points per minute. So a little less than I was expecting. The usage rate gets up to 32%. So he's got some appeal, but on DraftKings, it's very hard for me to click on him at that price tag at 9,600. That's pretty aggressive. If we're going to play an overpriced guard, in my opinion, we play Caris LeVert at 7,700.
Okay. Caris LeVert. I mean, obviously the Atlanta news, another big piece of this slate. There's really no doubt that he's sitting up there at 41.82. By the way, Frank Jackson in. So that's another piece of the Detroit puzzle that's coming together. So Frank Jackson in on your bingo cards, your COVID bingo cards, go ahead and select Frank Jackson in. We'll keep on going as we go. But Caris LeVert sitting there at 7,700. I'm with you. I love him too, but obviously a different price range, 2K less and just projecting out phenomenally well. So many good plays on this slate is really what it comes down to, but getting the right studs with the right scrubs, that's the name of the game. And that's what we're going to attempt to do here. Rest of the guards there for Indiana. I really don't find anything super appealing there. Brad Wanamaker is 3,200. I get it. My big problem with it. Say that again.
Hard pass.
Yeah. Hard pass for me too, because on this slate, again, I just think we have so many other pieces of value, like $1,000 more now from the Atlanta side around the exact same number here. At 13.1%, I think we can do better than Brad Wanamaker here. His chances of getting 30 and just completely busting this slate open is relatively low. And 30, it sounds stupid to say, isn't a guarantee for that to end up working out optimal on this slate. Do you agree?
Yeah. I mean, Corey Joseph seems like such a stronger play. I get
Agreed.
it. The Pacers have a great matchup, right? The Rockets are about as good as it gets from an opponent perspective, but we saw Wanamaker start the other night and he had like 17 fantasy points. I don't see a lot of ceiling here. I think that even though he is technically a point guard, the ball is not going to be in his hands very often. It's going to be the LeVert show. So yeah, for me, Wanamaker is a low ceiling, easy type of fade for me.
All right, good. We're in agreement there. Catching up on some super chats. I was just kind of scrolling back up to get to some of those here. We've got your mom, 1669. Need two. Gronk, AJ Brown, Gronk. What you think, PPR? I'd say play Gronk and AJ Brown. How about that? That's just kind of the way that works. Good luck with that, by the way. You gave me two options. Ryan Nelson, 02. Thursday stream with Eric and Matt L. Praise God. Hallelujah. He is risen. I'm singing. It's just what's happening. I'm also caffeinated. Here we go. Avi Schreier, Okongwu or Jang on FD. I am going to play neither, but if you had to play one, I'm going to be going to Jang and just kind of eating that jog. I think there's more of a ceiling there. Okongwu, I just don't know what those minutes could look like. I really have no idea. And you got to find better center plays, I think, than those two. Would you agree?
Yeah, I don't think either is particularly strong. I think I lean Okongwu just because he's been the better player per minute wise of late, but like there's no need. There are so many good value options, especially at center. So I don't know why we would need to go there on FanDuel.
Somebody talking about Malcolm Brogdon. I don't know. He's out. We're not playing Malcolm Brogdon, so you can take a 200-second respite. Let's keep on rolling here. Again, I'm going to start talking really, really fast because we have a lot to talk about. Steph Curry, 11-9. Yes. Major overpay, but we have a crazy amount of value. We got to talk about guys from a raw points perspective at a certain point. Steph Curry, LeBron James, DeJounte Murray. I talked about my boy Brandon Ingram, who I'm in love with. DeJounte Murray's coming off a 70-plus burger. LeBron James has been epic. Steph Curry up there on the top end. Who's your favorite spend up at the guard option, considering we can kind of do whatever build we want? There's scrubs and studs to pay for up at every position right now.
Yeah, I think it's Steph for me.
Me too.
The production, like you said, it has really kind of fallen off a cliff for him, but the matchup is good. There's still no Wiggins, still no Jordan Poole. I mean, in his last game, he played 36 minutes and he had a 38.6% usage rate. Give me that, right? I'll gladly take that in the lineup. And he's not projecting to be all that owned tonight. I think that most people are going to pay up for one of the stud center options. So, definitely overweight on Curry.
All right, Russell Westbrook, 1.8%. That's funny to look at, but I guess it makes sense there. LaMelo Ball, God, different slate. I would play some. Same thing with John Morant, both of them guys on the top end to kind of be looking at. But some of the more popular plays here on the top end for DK, for FanDuel, looking around the entire board. Spencer Dinwiddie. Let's touch on Washington here. I expected other pieces of Washington to get a little bit of traction. Specifically Kyle Kuzma, I think at the forward position, I expected to get more love. Maybe 6,800. It just looks ridiculous. He's obviously been very, 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 very bad the last three, but somebody has to shoot the basketball for this team. It seems like the field is just saying, hey, it's Spencer Dinwiddie and moving on with their lives. I don't know if that's necessarily all that's there, but he's definitely the guy that at 5,300 on DK, sub 5K on FanDuel, and I believe he's sub $20 over on Yahoo. He's really sticking out. Are you there on Spencer Dinwiddie today?
Yes. And for the record, Boom Bust Tool does not like Spencer. It has him only as a 10.5% optimal on DraftKings, which he's coming in for pretty significantly higher ownership. But the numbers with Beal off the court are very good. 1.15 DraftKings points per minute. He ups his usage rate to 26.2%. So I like Dinwiddie. I think it's a good spot for him. I will definitely have some. But again, there's just a million guards, right? Like we haven't even talked about Kemba Walker, who was the chalk 6 hours ago.
It's a weird world. He's still the chalk at $14 over on Yahoo. You should play a ton of him on Yahoo. Speaking of, Greg Smith, $9.99 super chat. Happy holidays to you guys. Happy holidays to you, Gregory. Single entry in MME tournament on Yahoo for the 3 guard spots. We've got Murray, LeVert, Wright, or Brunson, Ingram, LeVert. I love that second one. How about you?
Ooh, the second one is pretty tasty. I think the first one's good too, but the second one has just tons of upside.
Yeah, I love the second one. By the way, Eric, you helped me take down my first GPP on Yahoo. You're welcome. You're very, very welcome. Hoping to do it again. Merry Christmas. The losers win again. $600, okay, to leave on the table with all the value. I almost am rarely. So, I mean, I'm a big fan of leaving salary on the table in Showdown NFL and so many other different things. I try to use up more of the cap in NBA simply because the pricing is efficient to do with the scoring. You get it increased as you go. $600. It's on the more expensive range. I will say a slate like this, I think you're more inherently able to do it to leave 600 if you wanted to, but I'm not going to. Would you agree?
Yeah, I usually cap mine at around 500.
Yep.
Just because, again, like you said, there are 2 players on this slate who are priced at 12K. There's Steph Curry at 11.9, LeBron 11.3. Like there are going to be 2 of those that give us enough raw points that they're going to be in the optimal.
And then I'm real. Yep. And I'm real forever. One more super chat. Better play on FanDuel, Dinwiddie or Delon Wright? Which one do you prefer over there?
Oof. Delon.
Yeah, he's 4,500 too. I mean, they're both looking pretty good. Philadelphia is terrible matchup. Spencer Dinwiddie. I just don't know what to make of some of the minutes. Whereas like Delon Wright, Kevin Huerter's out. We got that official there. He played 38 minutes. And as you said, pretty low outcome for him. It is a back-to-back. He's a professional athlete. I think he'll be just fine. He'll be able to play a lot of minutes, and I think he'll be set to go. So I like him a little bit more as well. Anything else that you're really seeing from the guard position to touch on? I'll have some ad reads to get to. Again, I am going to be in talking fast mode. I apologize for singing earlier.
Jalen Brunson, another guy that
of it.
The price tag seems ridiculous, right? 8,500 on DraftKings. I still think it's a good number for him, especially if Porzingis sits. He's just going to have to do everything for them.
So speaking of that, how do you feel about Kemba Walker 5,900? We didn't talk about the Knicks situation. Again, so many situations. It's impossible that in 1 hour we would have everything to cover with you. And we have an NFL Live Before Lock show coming up after us. So no half hour extra for this show, but definitely be checking out that NFL Live Before Lock show for the football game here tonight. San Francisco, Tennessee starts up at 7:15 p.m. Eastern time. The Live Before Lock does. I believe that's Lofty, the Boss Man, and Ben Rasa. It doesn't get better than that trio. But how do you feel about Kemba Walker and this Knicks situation?
I don't know. I still think he's got great upside, but now Quentin Grimes is back. I think it's possible that Grimes cuts into his playing time, but certainly like it was one thing to eat the chalk with Kemba in that situation. He's down to 11% projected ownership. I'll be overweight on that. There's no doubt.
Yep, me too. 5,900 too cheap. $14 on Yahoo. Smash beyond smash beyond smash. That is like my perhaps like you could be 80% and I wouldn't care. I'd probably play him at $14 over there. You compare him to all the other guards that are at $10. We have every Detroit guy, everybody else there. We've literally just seen Kemba return to, high usage original Kemba here the last couple out. I'm happy to be rolling at 14 there. That's the most no-brainer play, I think, on the board at the guard position. And at 5,900, now that you've got other places people want to go to, I hope they go to Brad Wanamaker. Have fun with that. Let me know how that goes for you. I think that those are the broad strokes of the guard position. If people, want to super chat us and ask anything else in particular, Malik Beasley is somebody I'm always overweight to. So 5,100, I'm not going to shy away in the absence now. You talk about who could possibly keep that game close. D'Angelo Russell and Malik Beasley could. I don't see anybody else scoring the rock for that basketball team. No doubt about it. Devontae Graham, not this slate. I thought I was going to get to a bunch of him earlier here. He's starting to fall a little bit by the wayside. I will say though, 36 and 33 minutes before that 28-minute game, they blew Portland out. It wasn't as close as the 14 points it stayed at there. He didn't necessarily have to go out and shoot, but without Jonas Valanciunas, there is more of a room for an offensive role. The Pelicans, I think we'll talk more about at the forward position with Josh Hart, but anything else for guard before we move on?
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Devontae Graham is somebody I expected to have a lot of tonight, and now I'm kind of losing him. So, certainly still has some upside, but I don't know if he's got as much per dollar ability as some of these other plays.
All right. Avi Schreier, $4.99. My first name is the first part of obvious without the B. I don't know. Right. Or Diallo on FD. I think we had just kind of talked about that. Diallo on FanDuel is somebody that it's just like impossible. 4,800 for him in this spot. That's like impossible for me to get away from. I still am probably going to be taking right. Play both is probably the right answer.
Yeah. The point guard is just always going to have the higher expected output. So I agree. Delone.
All righty. Let's talk quick. NBA Live, Awesemo Plus tools and content. We have 35 minutes to go. I'm going to fly through this read for you, I promise. But you have to check out the weekly pass. Our cruncher is doing so much for us here behind the scenes. The guys updating the projections. I cannot even imagine. You think I sound anxious right now? I can't imagine what they're going through, making their lineups while simultaneously updating the projections like crazy. But you can get 25% off of that right now. Awesemo Plus Platinum. Come join us with promo code NBA Live. That's for 25% off. If you want to check out the weekly package right now, that's $16.95, or the NBA Expressly weekly package, $4.95. But NBA Live gets you $29.95 off, or you get the 25% off of that number. That's what you want to be checking out, because that gives you the player projections, ownership projections, premium Discord channel where we've got Loco there in the chat, helping you guys out constantly, staying updating on this crazy amount of news, the lineup builder, and so much more. Plus, it's every sport, not just NBA, but NFL for the showdown material, for the Sunday slate. Check it out. Stop guessing, start winning. Join us here at Awesemo Plus today. All right, heading to the forward spot here. This is where it gets a little bit maddening for me right now because we're looking at Naz Reid here in our last update. 60% ownership over on DK, 59% to be exact there. Massive number, don't care. I'm going to be massively overweight to it. How about you?
I'm missing him apparently on mine.
Oh, where is Naz Reid?
Where's the Nas?
So he's got it. He's the presumptive starter. There's nobody else that can really play center for this basketball team. And it's Rudy Gobert. It's a terrible spot. I get it. But him and Hernangomez are just so impossible for me to be getting away from here. If you look at Naz Reid right now, 59.4% in our current run here, sitting one below Josh Hart. He's 4,200. It's just a minutes and opportunity thing. He's always been somebody that, playing alongside Karl Anthony Towns, he falls below a fantasy point per minute guy. But that's generally not the event that you ever really see him. And now this isn't the event that we're going to be analyzing him for in this spot. I'm looking at him as somebody that is really impossible for me to get away from at a 1.1 DraftKings points per minute rate over the last calendar year. When he's absent, Karl Anthony Towns goes up a little bit. I just find him to be a smash beyond a smash. How about you?
Yeah, that's you lay out an excellent case. It's pretty tough to avoid. 1.6 fantasy points per minute this season. We haven't projected for over 30 minutes. Yeah. As long as he doesn't, foul out or play reduced minutes in a blowout, it's going to be hard for him to fail at this price tag.
Yep. That's really what it is. It's just like we're projecting him for around 33 fantasy points. He's 4,200. It is such a ridiculous piece. I mean, let's ask you. I'm going to ask you this. Okay. Now that we officially have Guillermo Hernangomez starting, how do you feel? Which one do you prefer? If you had like a super, super chalky build and you had to pick one or the other, would you prefer Hernangomez or Naz Reid?
I really love Willie Hernan G.
I do too. So I will say that if it weren't for Rudy Gobert on the other side, and again, I don't really look at matchup and care that much in this spot because it's more price indicative and role indicative and minutes indicative. But like, I still like Hernangomez more. He's still 400 cheaper over on DK. On FanDuel here, Naz Reid is only center at 4K. I think he's probably my favorite play that isn't Jokic at the center position. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Yes, I like that call. But again, we have to spend the money somewhere. So I'm more than likely using Jokic or Joel Embiid tonight.
Yep, I'm with you. I think that's the right approach to take there. D'Angelo Russell, 7,800 on FanDuel. That's really, I got to quit updating because I said I wasn't going to play there. I just put like a couple in the 15 because I couldn't say no. I can't quit you, FanDuel. I can't quit you. Yes, Jordan Klein. That was the movie you were thinking of. Let's continue on. You put Josh and I together hugging each other once. You're a bad person. Don't give me that look. That's all you. You secretly love it. Let's go to Cam Reddish here. Actually, no, let's not do Cam Reddish. He's a smash. Josh Hart. How do you feel about him? 6,200. That number has continually gone up. But you know what else has gone up? His minutes and now his role on this team. 42 minutes and 41 minutes the last two. Usage hasn't been outrageous, but I've always said it. He's one of the most underrated rebounders in the NBA. In NBA, a rebounding rate that rivaled what Steven Adams had with the New Orleans Pelicans. That's bonkers to think about. How do you feel about Josh Hart at 6,200 on this slate?
I'm like trying to find the bad chalk. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
And it's
Brad Wanamaker is it, and he's not chalky anymore.
I can't get away from Josh Hart. He's played 40 minutes the last two games. He's averaged 1.2 DraftKings points per minute with Valanciunas and Alexander Walker off the court. Because that's the thing, like you said, he's such a good rebounder. He will probably pick up a few additional rebounds with no JV tonight. So I have to play him too. It's one of those things where I'm really trying to not just be a chalk donkey, but I can't find the guy who's gonna bust.
Okay, I've got somebody that I don't like very much here at the forward position. Right. O'Shea Brissett. How is he getting 16%? And I get it. He's 3,800. We've seen an increased role if he gets over 24 minutes, but like out of anybody, you should be playing everybody. Everybody in your roster should have upside of like 30 minutes at this point. Like unless they're Naz Reid, where he's projected for 28, but he produces at just such a ridiculous rate without Cat on the floor, and then 1.1 for the last calendar year. If you look at anybody else here, like for me, just play all the Diallo for 600 more. Just play, Trey Lyles sitting there at 3,600. Those guys are lower owned than O'Shea Brissett. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, O'Shea's pretty good on a per minute basis.
He was
but
great
I do
last year, but like, what's his minutes upside? 30?
I think he can get to 30 tonight. Like
crazy.
I don't know if I agree with the Trey Lyles comp. I think I'd rather have Brissett than Trey Lyles. But all the other guys you mentioned, I will. Yeah, I'll take all the other guys you said over him.
Okay. Well, Hamidou Diallo, smash here. Again, we don't have that Detroit starting lineup. We have a Sixers starting lineup. Whoop-de-doo, Basil. What does it all mean?
What does it all mean?
God, I love doing shows with you. It's just ridiculous. But here we go. Other places that we can be looking at. Evan Fournier. I want to because he's 5,800 and everybody's been bashing how much he sucks. And now he's sub 7%. But again, you're giving up roster spots that it's just like, I don't know the path to 40 for him at this point. Like he just got done putting up 49 the other night, but God, it's just, I don't want to be playing these low usage guys that are in this mid 5,800 when there's guys cheaper that are going to be playing just as many minutes that have more paths to usage. I just find him hard to get to. I want to, though. Can you talk me into any Evan Fournier on this slate?
I don't think so because I think adding Grimes back into the lineup means he doesn't get to 40 minutes tonight.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. We got the starting lineup Sixers, Curry, Korkmaz, Thibault, Harris, Embiid. Normally I would care and be like, whoa, we have Korkmaz and Thibault and we have value. We don't have value. You don't play those two. Would you agree? All right, here we go. Something to talk about. Levert, Duarte, Holiday, Brissett, Turner. Everything I just said about O'Shea Brissett, scrapped from the record. He's starting.
Love me some O'Shea, man.
Fudging.
O'Shea, 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 O'Shea.
I was here for it. That was beautiful.
He's white.
I mean, honestly, you just beat all of my impressions and jokes in like 3 seconds. That was impressive. O'Shea Brissett, how much do you like him now that he's going to be starting for the very first time this season?
Yeah, again, 0.86 DraftKings points per minute over the past month. If we give him 30 minutes, I think that's enough that he has a chance to return value in one of the best matchups in DFS, right? Houston, fastest pace in the league this season, one of the worst defensive teams in the league. So I will have some Brissett. Again, though, there's just so many options, right? It's hard to say he's the guy that you should be playing now because none of that changes how we felt about Naz Reid or Josh Hart, right? It's just one of those nights where you're going to have to be, I'm probably going to play less players tonight for an 11 game slate than I have all season.
Probably. I'm right there with you. Actually, what it is that I'm going to have the tightest core and then I'm going to like rotate 2 roster spots over and 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 over. Do you like that one too? Cool. We've got 2. It just says super chat, but it's the member for 5 months. Super chat. Welcome, kicker of K Hunts. I see kind of what you were doing there. Jordan Lockhart, $20, just drops a 20 spot here. Somebody else said, good Lord, Eric, this is confusing and making me sick. I have to talk as fast as possible. There's too much to get to. I want to be as helpful as I possibly can in the next 26 minutes. And part of being helpful is talking about our sponsor, Yahoo, super, super fast so we can get back to the forward position. So that's what I'm going to do here right now. We've partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NBA season to give you some great offers. That is just an understatement because if you play in stuff like the $1 Christmas contest they have, $1, you can win $100,000. But more importantly, to you, not just like these outrageous, ridiculous contests they're putting up, but if you go now as a new user and you put $10 or more onto Yahoo, playing any of those paid contests, I recommend that dollar contest though for Christmas Day, you will get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum completely free to you. Yes, completely free to you. No strings attached. Boom. Offers on the screen. Thank you so much to Jordan Klein for 1, dealing with me, 2, being awesome, 3, for putting these offers up on the screen very, very quickly so we can get through it. But I'm just saying right now, the 12 days of winning, as I said, I'm in 11th place, looking to try to get a takedown. Got to focus a little bit on those Yahoo lineups, but you all need to be jumping in as fast as you possibly can and taking advantage of this offer if you haven't yet played on Yahoo, because you get that full month of Awesemo Plus Platinum completely free, no strings attached. Plus, if you use the promo code XMIS100, that's one word, XMIS100, you'll get $100 first match deposit bonus. So it's a 2-for-1 special at Kmart. Check that out. It's great. Stop guessing, start winning. Join us here at Awesemo Plus Platinum. But more importantly, join Yahoo today. Don't put me on 1.25 playback speed. That would be very, very bad right now. We are flying. We are going back to the forward position. Lots to talk about. Who are some of your favorite spend ups? Because we have money. We've got a lot of this to go spend. We have so much value. Julius Randle, Brandon Ingram, where he's forward eligible. LeBron James. How much LeBron James are you getting to? Or is it, something where you're looking for your boy Porzingis down here? Where are you spending at the forward spot?
LeBron James. LeBron James. Plenty of LeBron at 11-3. You got to spend the money somewhere. Porzingis, though, is like the guy that I want to take a stand on the most. It doesn't take much to be overweight on him. And again, I think if he plays, his ceiling is one of the highest on the slate. You mentioned Ingram earlier. I think he's fine at forward. I'd rather use him at forward than at guard. Randall for me is a pass. Just hasn't been the same player this season, especially with Kemba now, back and being kind of a usage monster. So forward's not that appealing to pay up. I think that there are, this is a better spot to look at some of these value plays, maybe Josh Hart in that mid range. But yeah, I don't see a ton of exposure on this high end outside of LeBron and KP.
I'm probably with you. If we call John Collins a spend up 7,300, I don't really. So that's part of it. Milwaukee coming on a back-to-back here. They just got done obliterating Houston last night. Chris Middleton's up there at 8K. Another guy that, with his rates without Giannis, we just got to absolutely be firing up a little bit there. There's some underrated options, I would say, in this mid-range, but legitimately, I don't know how you land on them with the raw points that exist for Brandon Ingram, Julius Randle, and the value that exists for the bottom end of the position. Julius Randle at 6%, that should be a little bit higher, I would say, especially now that we know Derrick Rose is going to be out here. I just think that eventually Julius Randle is going to have that remember me game circa 2020 and be back into the consideration. Yesterday, I called Robert Williams. Maybe this is the Julius Randle spot. I'm 3X on the 6% that we have currently on DK. Not nearly as aggressive as yesterday's Robert Williams, but still, you want to find some raw points. I think he's a good source for it. 10.5 is a definite overpay. Not disagreeing with that, but I don't really care. Got to get to a little bit. Anything else for you from the forward position that you really have to share?
No, nothing that I have to share.
Okay. Well, that's nice. We got a Hawks starting lineup. Okongwu is in it. So that's going to be fascinating. That's going to lead us to the center position. We've got Wright, Mays, Reddish, Collins, Okongwu. I will say I didn't know what those minutes looked like. I bet they look pretty good when you have Okongwu starting there. So whoever had that question about Jang and Okongwu, I definitely want the Okongwu side now. How about you?
Yeah, I had it originally because
you're sharper than me. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Are you frozen? Am I frozen?
No, I'm fine. Leave me alone. Let's keep going to the top of the center position. Let's start the discussion here with Nikola Jokic. We've talked about raw points multiple times here because, again, they matter a lot. He is projected for 10 more fantasy points than Steph Curry. It's $300 more. The problem is he's at the center position where we have tons and tons and tons of value. I got to assume, though, that if you have tons of value at every other position, you should be playing a lot of Nikola Jokic tonight. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I think that I'm playing two centers in most of my lineups, and I have Jokic or Embiid in virtually all of them. They're just I view them as the two best plays on the slate from a scoring perspective. Jokic clearly better, but Embiid gonna check in with a fraction of the ownership, I would imagine. And he's really started to come into his own. He had a 44% usage rate in their last game. So it wouldn't shock me if Embiid ended up outscoring Jokic, but I want both. And pay up at center and go down at center. Do both.
What, up or down or what? How are we doing? Okay. Yes. No. That's definitely what we're going to be doing. We're playing a lot of centers. We're going to rotate them around, but we're going to have a lot of Jokic while we do it. Just got this from the news god. Thank you so much. Ron Roach. Ron Roach. Excuse me. I'm just flying here. Right. Mays. Your only two guards that are true guards that are available. Cam Reddish can do some ball handling duty, but then you've got Reddish, Bogdanovich, Stevenson, a 1-2 Hill there at the forward spots. Collins, Okongwu, Jang, and Johnson. I mean, I just love Delon Wright. We've just sung his praises constantly. The weird thing for me is Skylar Mays only played like 9 minutes yesterday. I bet he plays more than 9 minutes tonight, but I still don't want to play him. Wright is still just a full bore, fire him up everywhere, right?
Correct.
Okay, good talk. Glad we had it. Let's go to the center position here. Joel Embiid, Rudy Gobert. This next tier of guys is very, very intriguing because you are getting them at not just a fraction, but like you lose Karl Anthony Towns as well. You have no Giannis, of course, but you lose just a ton of ownership going from Jokic to them. Is there somebody that you're more inclined to take shots with at the center position than somebody else here on the top end?
To me, this next tier down is pretty much a hard avoid. Like, could they exceed value? Sure, but there's just too much of an opportunity cost, right? You're either not using one of these elite values or you're not getting that 70 plus fantasy point upside of Jokic and Embiid. So I can't play Rudy Gobert tonight. I can't play Christian Wood tonight. I can't play DeAndre Ayton tonight.
So who are your highest owned centers then here tonight?
I have, the top two guys. I was at a 100% on Willie Hernangomez. I may tune that down to like 80% now. But again, he's too cheap. He's 3,800 for a guy who's averaging like 1.4 fantasy points per minute. So I'm going to have a ton of him. I have John Collins. I have a lot of Miles Turner now with the Sabonis news, especially on FanDuel. Turner is an elite option at 6,400 on FanDuel. I would say that's kind of where my core consists of. I do have some DeMarcus Cousins at 4,700. And O'Shea Brissett, who's now center eligible, is also in my pool as well, but pretty tight core.
Yeah, I think that that's the right approach. And again, Jokic and Hernangomez, they are just going to look so great on the opposite ends of the spectrum there. Like, no doubt about it. The expensive guys and the cheap guys, those two are in a class of their own, but the ownership is definitely reflective of that. If I'm looking to get different, Miles Turner is definitely my dude. Like, he's sub 20%. He should be much, 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 much higher owned than that. It's very surprising to me that he's not. I'm going to be 3x that number. I don't think there's any doubt about that. As I'm putting him in, I've got him for 44 fantasy points at 6,700. Again, not that we're more interested in raw points, but like the guy's an absolute monster, nearly a 1.3 DraftKings points per minute guy with no Sabonis, with no Brogdon. It makes way too much sense for me. Defensive stats over on FanDuel, massive thing. Plus he's got the power forward eligibility over there. He just sticks out like a sore thumb to me, but I've got one guy that is going to get slept on here in the aftermath of the Karl Anthony Towns news. What in the world does Minnesota do to combat with Rudy Gobert? Like, there's not Nathan Knight ain't it. Naz Reid sure ain't it. Like, I'm telling you right now, Rudy Gobert over under 18.5 rebounds. I mean, this could just get absurd. And sure, could this be a blowout? But he could also in 30 minutes put up 60. I'm obsessed with Rudy Gobert on pretty much every single site. How about you?
No.
Okay, good talk. You're really.
If I felt the need to go with Gobert, I would just take his rebounding prop. Right.
Okay.
Like if I did feel that enamored with the matchup, because again, I just don't. 60 fantasy points is like 6x on his current salary.
Well, Matt LaMarca, you know where you can go check out that rebounding prop?
Where?
Oddshopper.com is where you can go check out that rebounding prop. You can basically in 30 seconds or less fire up any prop that you possibly want to see, where they're the most profitable, where they're possibly coming at, where the best value is going to be. I can put in Utah. I can then sort by player. I could go by Rudy Gobert, and I can see every single prop that he has immediately to kind of analyze that. So if I like those props right now, the under of 1.5 assists for Rudy Gobert, that's a thing to look at here. But he's currently got a line of 15.5. We actually have the under that has a 53% expecting win percentage on 15.5. But, again, part of that is blowout. How many minutes are you expecting him to play here? 15.3 being the rebounds projection. I just like to be able to even just look at what those props are at to get an idea. Like, it's basically a flat value at 15.5 rebounds for him. That should tell you how ridiculous he's been. No doubt about it. Looking at some of these Utah props, they're not going to look that enticing to be betting on, but great way to cross-reference what you're doing in DFS with what the markets, because there's nobody better than Vegas in terms of efficiently putting the lines together, because if they weren't good at it, they would lose a lot of money and then it would be a problem. But we have the tools that can help you combat that, to be able to make you a profitable better by checking these out. Not everybody is using this right now. So head to oddshopper.com. If you're doing single game parlays now, they have a parlay builder for that. We have arbitrage betting. That's where you find multiple places to go put the bets down. You find the middle ground and you're guaranteed to find a middle on that. We have all the tools that you need at oddshopper.com to help you, not just with DFS to be able to look at some of the props, but to be able to help you out in putting together profitable bets. All righty, let's jump on over.
Can I say something real quick?
I would love that. I would love for you to.
You know who's better than Vegas at putting these lines together? Alex and our projection team.
That's a fact.
Yeah, it's literally their job to predict what NBA players are going to do on a nightly basis. Vegas has a million other things that they're worried about. Prop limits are usually on the smaller side. They can't go broke by setting a bad scoring prop. But you better believe that Alex is going to be, putting in as much attention as he can to get his lines as accurate as possible, because that's how he makes his money. So yes. I would say that they're better than Vegas.
Yeah, legitimately. That's what it is there to do, is to be better than Vegas. Oddshopper.com, check it out. But I'm just simply saying that if something is coming in as like a flat efficient in our projections and with Vegas, there's no better double down on a 15.5 that you're looking at there. So I'm flat out just feeling pretty good about Rudy Gobert getting a lot of rebounds in this spot. The double-double bonus seems pretty secure, but again, you need centers to smash. I just think he can be added to the bucket of centers who I would kind of expect to be able to do some meaningful things out there on a basketball floor tonight. So I get what you were saying there before, and I know that you had talked about Rudy Gobert for a quick second there, and I just was kind of spinning it back to you. I apologize. Not always listening. I'm talking very fast. I'm going to slow down. DeMarcus Cousins, we liked him as well. That makes some sense. Is there anybody else at the center position? Because I kind of want to open this up to news as it starts coming in, to questions and to just analyzing situations as they roll in, because this is a live before lock show. We want to be as helpful as we possibly can to you. I'm going to be helpful by you to everybody here right now. Get a dummy set of lineups in. Just get them in. You just get them in. It doesn't matter. We're going to be able to talk about a bunch of news, but we can't do anything if you don't get your CSV in right now. So get it in, and then we'll update and we'll keep going. But anything else for you at center?
No, keeping it pretty tight. We only have 7 centers on DraftKings with an optimal rate above 7.5%. I don't think this is a night where you need to play like a million different guys. Just take your stands on the guys that you like the most and hope that you're right.
All right, let's look at the overview of this slate, because it is just insanity. We still have Kristaps Porzingis, a game time decision here Thursday. We have the list of available players here for Detroit. I'm just going to read this. Nine names. I've never heard of Jamorko Pickett in my life. I'm not even going to lie. But Corey Joseph, Frank Jackson, Hamidou Diallo, Sadiq Bey, Luka Garza, Iowa's finest, Josh Jackson, Trey Lyles, Check Diallo, so other Diallo, and Jamorko Pickett. Yeah, Diallo stack. Diallo for all the money. Don't do that. One Diallo is better than the other Diallo. Make sure you click on the right one. But let's kind of revisit this situation, because it is very, very important. The most expensive guy is 6,700 Sadiq Bey, but then it goes off a cliff to Hamidou Diallo, 4,400. We don't have the starting lineup. I think right now, compared to what their current ownership is and what people are expecting, I'm obsessed with playing Frank Jackson at 6%. If that's going to be the actual number, we haven't projected for a hair shy of 22, but Frank Jackson's the kind of guy that could go out and just destroy this slate if he ends up in that starting unit. We haven't projected for 32 minutes here. Willing participant in the shooting department. I always love saying that, but Corey Joseph is getting right now 5x the ownership of Frank Jackson. I think you just kind of inflate one and maybe kind of temper down expectations on Corey Joseph. But how are you kind of looking at the entire guard situation here from Detroit?
Yeah, still for me, Diallo is my favorite, but I am with you that I want to be overweight on Frank Jackson and underweight on Corey Joseph. Joseph's going to play a ton of minutes tonight. There's no doubt about it, but he's just not that great on a per minute basis. 0.68 DraftKings points per minute over the past month. Jackson, we've seen some like legit ceiling performances from him. He had 30 a couple nights ago against Brooklyn. So I would rather go with his upside, even though it's a little bit more uncertain than I would with Joseph.
All right. So we revisited the Detroit situation. I'm going to revisit Indiana because they're on this early slate as we're kind of looking at it. Are you still getting to? So what was your take on Miles Turner? I really do not remember.
Liked Miles Turner.
You and me
a
both.
lot, especially on FanDuel. Really like Karis LeVert again, especially on FanDuel. He's 6,200, 6,400, something like that. Just way too cheap. And then I'm also playing O'Shea Brissett, but that's it. That's it for the Pacers. I don't necessarily need Chris Duarte tonight. I don't want Brad Wanamaker. Just give me, the two studs plus Brissett.
I have 2% Brad Wanamaker. I just want to let it be known. 190 lineups. In the event that that's the one, I apologize because, again, I hate him. I absolutely hate him on this slate. There's no doubt about it. So that's revisiting the Indiana situation. Another one in the early section here, the New Orleans Pelicans. I think this is the right way to be the most helpful to everybody here in the last 9 minutes. Anything you want to revisit here? We have Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, Guillermo Hernangomez. Those are your three major guys gaining the most ownership. Again, I wanted to play Devontae Graham. I really did, and I just can't do it. I'm actually getting to above. So 2% Herbert Jones is kind of interesting. He's not a good fantasy point per minute producer, but he was playing like high 30s minutes once upon a time in a land far away. And now he's going to be playing low 30s minutes more than likely in this spot, considering Josh Hart's back. But he's 4K. He's going to be out on the floor quite a bit. I think the rebounding rate in the absence of Jonas Valanciunas has room to grow. What do you think about him as like a flyer on this New Orleans team?
No, he's
okay,
4K. He's 4K. That's too much for Herb.
Yeah, probably true. I just was kind of trying to find anything else we could, anything you want to readdress with Hernangomez. Is he your highest owned player here on this slate?
He is. He was 100%. I've tuned him down to 80.
Yeah, I have 82% of him right now. And again, that's just kind of letting it run. I mean, he's projected for nearly 35 points at 3,800. He's in the starting lineup. Foul trouble's a thing. I would have a rule in place like normally. They're super cheap anyway, 3,800 and 3K, where you probably didn't need a rule in some slates. But I think you legitimately should have a rule, only one of Hernangomez or Hayes, if you wanted to try to take that foul trouble there, because it ends up getting the run. He's shown, some capability before of kind of making that work. And he's under 1%. I'm happy to get to like 2 or 3% of him.
I have none, but it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm just not going to be going nuts with it. Atlanta, we've kind of covered that at length, I believe. Anything else to revisit for Atlanta? Delon Wright, absolute smash. Cam Reddish, absolute smash again. How much of those guys are you getting to specifically, considering, that news broke a while ago? We got to see the starting lineup, got the entire situation from Atlanta kind of materialized, or it definitely came to fruition knowing that Herter was out. Reddish and Wright coming off of being popular yesterday. Are you getting to one more than the other?
Yes, I have significantly more Wright. Again, I think Reddish hit his absolute ceiling outcome in their last game, and I think Wright hit pretty much his floor. So, right now we have Reddish projected 33% ownership. I'm underweight on that. We have Wright at 24% ownership. I am well above that.
Okay. Love it. Yeah. Jordan Klein, Eric crunching, you can tell. Yeah, I'm crunching lineups. I'm flying. I'm also very caffeinated. Yes. Check, everyone. You win a prize. Let's see. Kemba Walker.
Isaiah Livers out. That doesn't mean anything.
God, I have to change everything again. This is just absurd. Whatever. Trey Lyles, you had already talked about, you didn't like. I don't want to talk about that situation again. Let's go back to the Knicks situation. We're just kind of playing roulette with everything here. Are you getting to any Alec Burks? That was somebody that we didn't really talk about. I had somebody ask me a question about him earlier today. I just don't see any way in hell I'm playing him at 7,800 on DK, but maybe a little bit more of a talking point on Yara or FanDuel. Are you getting any on this slate?
He's a very interesting play. He would have been, somebody to consider most nights, but I don't think tonight is the night. I have some on FanDuel where he's 5,600. That's like nearly 2K less, more than 2K less than he is on DraftKings, but there's no need to play him at 7,800 on DraftKings.
I agree. Let's see. Anything you're noticing with your lineups that just looks different that you weren't expecting? Something that, you thought you would get to that you're just not anymore in the aftermath of all of this news coming through?
I will say that I'm a little bit sad that I've had to have some of these like mid-range lineups kind of go to the wayside.
Same.
And I still have some, I have some lineups that are like Karis LeVert and John Collins and Miles Turner, Josh Hart. Like I think there's a pathway for those lineups to succeed, but it's just going to be really hard to not have one of the, super cheap guys with one of the super studs.
Agreed. And LeBron James, somebody that, maybe I was selling a little bit short, but Steph Curry, I think there's just such a path for him. And he hasn't done it lately for people. It's been 6 games in a row, 7 games in a row. We haven't seen any kind of a ceiling whatsoever. Hasn't even eclipsed 50. It's going to happen in the absence of all these dudes. Eventually, you're going to get that 70 from him, and you're going to be really upset you didn't play him on a stars and scrubs slate. That's just kind of the way that I feel about that. No doubt about it. That's going to kind of be it for the most part. Get your lineups in. We got 4 minutes to go. I'm going to double check. Wait, what is this? Kemba out? What? I don't see anything about that. Do not, I swear to God, do not spam the chat with fake news today. As if you thought I was high energy. Oh, they were asking, no, Kemba. Oh, that's nice. Kemba Walker is not out, but I just saw Kemba out. And when I read that, I'm triggered. And when I get triggered, Mr. Bigglesworth gets upset. And when Mr. Bigglesworth gets upset, people get timed out. Why must I be surrounded by 50? Stroke him, love him. From the moment I heard Frau say I had a clone, I knew that I'd be safe because I wouldn't be alone. Oh my God. 3 minutes to go. Can you tell? I'm just trying to keep good vibes going here, man. It's been a stressful day. Not only this, but I mean, we've got NFL Live Before Lock coming up after this. I saw the boss man hanging there in chat. I saw him there a second ago. I don't know what he was responding to because I don't think I could read the thing that he was responding to, but I know that he'll be chatting some NFL here with Lofty, with Ben Rossa. Looking forward to that, talking a little Tennessee and San Francisco. Check that out here in 15 minutes. I will be as well. No doubt about it, because I'm going to need some help, especially coming off this NBA slate that has just truly tried to kill me. Karis LeVert, I'm getting just way too much of him, but I'm not going to change it now. Anything else that you really want the people to know as we get closer to lock here? Any kind of late swap strategy you're looking at to get to your Kristaps Porzingis that you want? Anything else that you think is really pressing we should talk about to close out?
Yeah, the Porzingis thing is big. I want to have flexibility. That game's right in the middle of the slate though, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. If I build him in, I have built him in. If he's out, I have plenty of time to just finagle and get to some of these later guys. I feel like we may have shortchanged DeJounte Murray a little bit today. I think that he is another player that I have plenty of exposure to as a stud. I don't know why he never seems to get the love he deserves.
Because he sucks. No,
well, that's just a terrible take.
I love DeJounte. Yeah, it's a terrible take. He's been incredible. I absolutely love him more than my firstborn. No offense to I don't have a child, but if I did, DeJounte Murray's an absolute beast. There's no doubt about it. I love him. He's just, in the context of this, compared to Curry, compared to some of these other guys, he's gaining a little bit of traction. And I think I'd much rather just kind of be avoiding some of this stuff. I absolutely love DeJounte Murray all the time. You could make a case for him here on this slate for sure. 10-3 for him. I'm getting to 2%. That's unfortunate because I do like him as a human, and going up against the Lakers, anybody can go nuts. Maybe I'll late swap into some more here, but we got 1 minute to go. Jump on in here. Yes, I'm a huge nerd. That is me. I'm definitely that. I'm a huge nerd who also just got done trying to cover as much of an NBA slate as we possibly could for you. Who is your highest owned guard?
Highest owned guard is DeLone Wright.
All right. My highest owned guard here. Let me click on down. We've got Karis LeVert for me. And then Wright is actually number 2 for me. A highest owned forward for you tonight.
Highest owned forward is Naz Reid.
All right. Cam Reddish for me. Let's see. Naz Reid. Yeah, it's Naz Reid, power forward. Yeah, 74%. There we go. And to round it out, center, the big question. Give me your top 3 centers. Who are your highest owned on this slate to round it out?
Willie is number 1. Jokic is number 2. And JoJo number 3.
I believe those are my exact. Nope, we got Hernangomez, Naz Reid, Jokic. Yeah, John Collins, if you count him. That Miles Turner would be my 3rd pure center. But that's going to do it for us here, everybody. We are at lock. That was a wild one. Thanks for bearing with us here. And thank you so much to Matt LaMarca stepping in clutch here. Greg Ehrenberg giving all of our love to him here as well. He's the absolute man. We missed him today. But Matt LaMarca, any final words for the people?
Merry Christmas to those who celebrate. And I will see y'all next week.
Look at that. You'll see me. You'll see me on Sunday. That's what we'll do. We'll be in the afterglow of our.
I guess that's technically
exactly
still this week.
Check us out. NBA Live Before Lock. That'll be Matt LaMarca and myself on Sunday, giving you all the goods. But otherwise, check out the NFL Live Before Lock show. Thank you so much to Jordan Klein behind the virtual glass. Everybody, Merry Christmas. We'll see you soon.